The moment I really look at you, I stop seeing my boss, and that terrifies me. Those words, whispered in a storm-lit penthouse office, would shatter two lives and rebuild them into something neither Adrian Vale nor Selena Cross ever imagined possible. A single father who scrubbed floors to keep his daughter safe. A billionaire CEO who'd forgotten what honesty sounded like. One rainy night, one impossible confession, and a choice that would cost them everything they'd built alone, to gain the only thing that mattered. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights on the 47th floor hummed with the particular frequency of money and exhaustion. Adrian Vale pushed his maintenance cart past glass-walled conference rooms where shadows of abandoned coffee cups sat like gravestones to meetings that had ended hours ago. His rubber-soled work boots made no sound on the polished marble. 12 years in this building had taught him how to be invisible, and he'd gotten damn good at it. It was nearly 11 on a Thursday that felt like it had been going since Tuesday. Rain hammered the floor-to-ceiling windows hard enough that Adrian could feel it in his bones. Or maybe that was just the ache of being 32 and feeling 40. His phone buzzed in his pocket, third time in an hour. "Emma's fine," the text from Mrs. Castellanos read. "Finished her homework. She's asking when you'll be home." Adrian typed back with one thumb while steering the cart with his hip. "Hour tops. Save me some of whatever she didn't eat for dinner." The reply came fast. "She ate everything, growing like a weed. I made extra empanadas. They're in your fridge." He smiled at the screen. Mrs. Castellanos had lived in the apartment next door for 6 years, since Emma was 2 and Adrian's world had collapsed and reformed around a tiny human who needed him to be better than he was. The old woman charged him almost nothing to watch Emma on late nights like this, and she always sent him home with food he hadn't asked for but desperately needed. "You're a saint," he typed. "I'm a bored widow. Different thing. Now go finish your work so that baby girl doesn't fall asleep waiting." Adrian pocketed his phone and checked his assignment sheet. One job left. Reported electrical issue in the executive wing, office 4701. He felt his jaw tighten reflexively. The executive floor, where people earned in a day what he made in a year, where the air itself seemed to cost more, where the carpets were so thick his cartwheels stuck, and he had to muscle it forward like pushing through snow. He hated it up here. Not because he was bitter. Adrian had made peace with his place in the world a long time ago. He hated it because up here, people looked at him differently. Down in the lobby or the mid-level floors, he was just Adrian, the maintenance guy who fixed things and didn't talk much. Up here, he was invisible until he wasn't, and when he wasn't, the way certain executives looked at him made his skin crawl. Like he was some kind of exotic animal. Like they were waiting for him to do something they could tell a story about later. Working class hero, he'd heard one of them say once, loud enough to make sure he heard it. Look at him, so earnest. Adrian had finished fixing their jammed printer and left without a word. Earnest. Like it was quaint that he gave a damn about doing his job right. He swiped his master key card at the security panel, and the frosted glass doors to the executive wing whispered open. The carpet here was burgundy and gold. The walls painted a cream color that probably had a fancy name like Morning Dove or Whispered Ivory. Every 20 feet, there was a piece of art that cost more than his car. He'd Googled one of them once out of curiosity, a canvas that looked like someone had sneezed paint onto it. $400,000. Office 4701 was at the end of the hall. Selena Cross's office. Adrian had been in there exactly 3 times in 2 years. Once to replace a ceiling tile after a minor leak. Once to fix a window that wouldn't close. Once to reset the breakers when half her floor went dark during a summer thunderstorm. Each time, she hadn't been there. Each time, he'd been grateful for that. He stopped outside her door and checked his watch. 11:17 p.m. The light was on inside. He could see it bleeding out from under the door. His assignment sheet said she'd called it in herself 20 minutes ago, said the overhead lights were flickering and she was worried about an electrical fire. Adrian knocked twice, professional and even. "Come in." Her voice was clear even through the heavy door. No hesitation, no question about who it might be this late. He turned the handle and stepped inside, cart and tool bag in tow. Selena Cross was standing by the window, silhouetted against the rain-streaked glass, and the blurred city lights beyond. She didn't turn around when he entered. "Lights are acting up," she said, still facing the window. "Started about an hour ago. Flickering, then they dim, then they're fine for a while, then it starts over." "I'll check the circuit," Adrian said. He kept his eyes on his tool bag, pulling out his voltage tester and multimeter. Might be a loose connection in the junction box. Could also be the fixture itself if it's old enough. "Everything in this building is new," Selena said. There was something in her voice, not annoyance exactly, more like observation. "They renovated this floor 3 years ago. Spared no expense, I'm told." "New doesn't mean perfect." Adrian moved to the far wall where the light panel was. "Sometimes they rush the install and connections aren't seated right. Thermal expansion does the rest." He popped the panel cover and started testing connections. The rain was loud against the window behind him, and he could feel Selena's presence in the room like a weight in the air. She still hadn't turned around. He was grateful for that too. Everyone in the building knew who Selena Cross was. Youngest CEO in the company's 70-year history, self-made before she was 30, which meant she'd clawed her way up without a trust fund or family connections to grease the wheels. The business magazines loved her. She was brilliant, ruthless when she needed to be, and looked like she'd walked off a movie screen. Adrian had seen her photo in the lobby displays often enough. Dark hair, sharp eyes, the kind of beauty that made men stupid. He'd made it a point never to look at her directly. It wasn't about fear or deference. It was about survival. Adrian had learned early that some doors weren't meant for people like him to walk through, and the fastest way to get burned was to forget that. He had a daughter to raise, bills that didn't care about his feelings, and a life that worked precisely because he didn't reach for things he couldn't hold. "Found it," he said, tightening a loose wire nut. Connection was backed out about a quarter turn, probably vibration from the HVAC over time. "Should be solid now. Thank you." Adrian closed up the panel and tested the lights. They came on clean and steady, no flicker. He packed his tools, zipped his bag, and turned toward the door. "Why don't you ever look at me?" The question hit him like a punch he hadn't seen coming. Adrian stopped mid-step, his hand still on the cart handle. For a long moment, the only sound was the rain. "Ma'am?" he said carefully. Selena turned from the window. This time he had no choice but to look at her, and the moment he did, he understood why he'd been avoiding it. She wasn't just beautiful. That would have been manageable. She was real in a way that photographs couldn't capture, real in a way that made his chest tighten. Her eyes weren't cold or calculating like he'd expected. They were tired, lonely, human. "You heard me," she said. Her voice was quieter now, less like a CEO and more like a person asking a question she wasn't sure she should. "I've noticed it for weeks. You're the only maintenance worker who comes up here and doesn't... You don't stare. You don't try to make small talk. You barely acknowledge I exist. I want to know why." Adrian set his tool bag down slowly. His heart was doing something complicated in his chest. "With respect, Ms. Cross, I'm just here to do my job." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I've got." She took 3 steps toward him. Not aggressive, just closing distance. "Try again." "Ms. Cross." "Selena." "I can't call you that." "Why not? It's my name." "Because you're my boss's boss's boss." Adrian heard the edge creeping into his voice and forced it flat again. "Because there's a difference between people like you and people like me, and pretending there isn't doesn't make anyone's life easier." "Is that what you think?" Selena's eyes narrowed slightly. "That I'm looking for someone to make my life easier?" "I don't think about what you're looking for." The words came out harder than he meant them to. "I think about my daughter and whether I can get home before she falls asleep. I think about making rent and keeping my health insurance and not screwing up the only stable thing in her life. That's what I think about." Selena was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, softer, but not weak. "You didn't answer my question. Why don't you look at me?" Adrian closed his eyes. This was a mistake. This whole conversation was a mistake. He should grab his cart and leave, and hope to God she forgot this ever happened. But he was tired. Bone tired. Soul tired. Tired of being invisible and tired of being careful, and tired of pretending that he was made of something that couldn't break. "Because the moment I really look at you," he said quietly, "I stop seeing my boss." I stop seeing a billionaire CEO. I start seeing a woman I could fall for. And I can't afford that. Not in any sense of the word. The rain filled the silence. Selena stared at him like he'd just spoken a language she'd forgotten existed. "You're serious," she said finally. "Unfortunately." Adrian picked up his tool bag. "I should go." "Wait. Ms. Cross, with respect, I've already said too much. You asked for honesty, and I gave it to you. Now I need to leave before I make this worse." "What if I don't want you to leave?" Adrian's hand froze on the door handle. He didn't turn around. "What I want doesn't matter," he said. "It never has. I have a daughter who's waiting up for me because she doesn't sleep well when I'm not home. I have exactly one life to offer her, and I've spent 8 years making sure it's stable and safe and predictable. Getting tangled up with you, no matter how much I might want to, that's not stable. That's a hurricane. And I won't do that to her." He opened the door. "Adrian." His name and her voice stopped him like a hand on his shoulder.
"Yeah? Thank you," Selena said, "for being honest. I haven't heard much of that lately." Adrian nodded once without turning around, then walked out into the hallway and pulled the door shut behind him. His hands were shaking. The rain had slowed to a drizzle by the time Adrian swiped out at the security desk and pushed through the lobby doors into the cold November night. His truck was parked 3 blocks away in the cheapest lot he could find, and the walk gave him time to shove what had just happened into a box in his mind labeled "Things That Don't Matter." It didn't work. "The moment I really look at you, I stop seeing my boss." He'd actually said that, out loud, to Selena Cross, to a woman who could have him fired with a phone call, who existed in a stratosphere so far above his own that they might as well be different species. "Idiot," he muttered, unlocking his truck. "Goddamn idiot." The engine turned over on the 3rd try. He needed to replace the starter, but that was a problem for a different paycheck. He cranked the heat and pulled out into empty streets slick with rain. The apartment was in Riverside, 40 minutes away if traffic was light. It was a neighborhood that had been nice once, before the factories closed and the grocery stores moved out and the people with options left for somewhere better. Adrian's building was a squat brick box with bars on the ground floor windows and a front door that stuck in humid weather. Mrs. Castellanos kept geraniums on her windowsill that somehow survived despite everything, and old Mr. Washington on the 3rd floor played jazz loud enough to hear through the walls. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. Adrian parked in his assigned spot, number 2F, faded paint on cracked asphalt, and climbed the exterior stairs to the 2nd floor. His key scraped in the lock the way it always did, and he made a mental note for the 100th time to pick up some graphite lubricant. The apartment was dark except for the kitchen light. Mrs. Castellanos looked up from her knitting when he came in, reading glasses perched on her nose. "She's asleep," the old woman said before Adrian could ask. "Fought it until about 20 minutes ago. I told her you'd be home soon." "I'm sorry I was late." "You're always sorry? I'm always fine with it." Mrs. Castellanos set her knitting aside and stood, joints creaking. "Empanadas are in the fridge, beef and potato. Don't let them go to waste." "You're too good to us." "I'm exactly good enough." She patted his arm on her way past. "That girl loves you more than sense. Don't forget it." "I won't." After she left, Adrian locked the door and stood in the small kitchen for a long moment. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the old refrigerator and the distant sound of Mr. Washington's saxophone. He could see Emma's homework on the table, math problems in her careful, looping handwriting, a library book about dolphins. Her jacket hung on the back of her chair. The center of his universe, contained in a 2-bedroom apartment that cost $1,100 a month. Adrian pulled the empanadas from the fridge and ate them cold over the sink, too tired to bother heating them up. They were perfect anyway. Mrs. Castellanos had a gift. When he finished, he washed his hands and walked quietly down the narrow hallway to Emma's room. The door was cracked open the way she liked it. Not closed, but not wide enough that too much light got in. He eased it open another inch and looked inside. Emma was sprawled across her twin bed in a tangle of blankets and stuffed animals, dark hair fanned across her pillow. She slept like she did everything else, wholeheartedly, without reservation. One arm was flung above her head, the other clutched her favorite bear, a threadbare thing she'd named Button when she was 3.
Adrian leaned against the doorframe and felt something in his chest crack open the way it always did when he looked at her. 8 years old, smart as hell, funny without trying. The best thing he'd ever been part of making, even if the circumstances had been a disaster. Emma's mother had left when Emma was 6 months old. No note, no explanation, just gone one morning when Adrian came home from a double shift to find the apartment empty except for the baby crying in her crib. He'd never heard from her again. No custody battle, no child support, nothing. She'd just erased herself. Those first few years had been the hardest thing Adrian had ever survived. He'd been 24, working 2 jobs, trying to keep a baby alive on no sleep, and even less money. He'd learned to change diapers and make formula and function on 3 hours of sleep. He'd learned which bills could be paid late and which couldn't. He'd learned to swallow his pride and accept help from Mrs. Castellanos when she offered it, because sometimes love meant admitting you couldn't do it alone. He'd learned that nothing in his life mattered more than the small human who called him Daddy. Emma stirred in her sleep, mumbling something he couldn't make out. Adrian stepped into the room and pulled her blanket up over her shoulders. She settled immediately, burrowing deeper into her pillow. "Love you, baby girl," he whispered. She didn't wake up. Adrian stood there for another minute, just watching her breathe, then backed out of the room and closed the door to a crack again. In his own bedroom, he sat on the edge of his bed and pulled off his work boots. His back ached. His shoulders ached. Everything ached in the specific way of a man who worked with his hands for a living and wasn't getting any younger. He thought about Selena Cross standing by that window. He thought about the way she'd looked at him when he finally met her eyes. He thought about how badly he wanted to stop thinking about her. "Not for you," he said quietly to the empty room. "Not even close." But when he lay down and closed his eyes, the last thing he saw before sleep took him was the way she'd turned from the window, backlit by the city, looking at him like he'd said something that mattered. Friday was a half day. Adrian's supervisor, a perpetually exhausted man named Rick, who smelled like cigarettes and regret, had assigned him to routine maintenance on the lower floors, changing air filters, checking door hinges, replacing burnt-out bulbs. Easy work, mindless work. The kind that let Adrian's thoughts wander to places they shouldn't. He kept replaying the conversation from the night before, kept hearing his own voice saying things he had no business saying, kept seeing the look on Selena's face. "What if I don't want you to leave?" "Focus," he muttered to himself, yanking an air filter out of its housing harder than necessary. "You've got work. Do the work." At 1 o'clock, Rick found him in a mechanical room and told him he could clock out. "You sure?" Adrian said. "I've still got the 4th floor restrooms on my list." "Jenkins can handle it. You've been pulling late nights all week. Go home. See your kid." Adrian didn't argue. He cleaned his tools, signed out, and was in his truck by 1:15. The elementary school let out at 2:45. Adrian parked across the street at 2:30 and waited, watching the doors. Other parents and caregivers gathered on the sidewalk, mostly mothers, a few fathers, a handful of grandparents. He recognized some of them from previous pickups but didn't know their names. That was intentional. Adrian had learned that getting too friendly led to questions about Emma's mother, and those questions never went anywhere good. At 2:47, the doors burst open and kids poured out like a dam breaking. Adrian spotted Emma immediately. She was near the middle of the pack, purple backpack bouncing, talking animatedly to a girl with braids. When she saw his truck, her whole face lit up. "Dad!" She broke into a run, weaving through the crowd with the reckless confidence of a kid who hadn't learned to be afraid yet. Adrian got out and crouched down just in time for her to crash into him, all sharp elbows and enthusiasm. "Hey, trouble is set," he said, wrapping her in a hug. "How was school?" "Good. We did science and I got 100 on my spelling test, and Marcus brought his hamster for show and tell, but it pooped in the cage and everyone laughed." "Sounds like a solid day." "Can we get ice cream?" "It's November." "So? Ice cream doesn't have a season, Dad. That's capitalism talking." Adrian blinked. "Where did you learn that word?" "Mrs. Castellanos. She says capitalism is why the good grocery store left and now we have to go to the expensive one." "Mrs. Castellanos is not wrong." Adrian stood and opened the passenger door. "Buckle up. And yeah, we can get ice cream." Emma cheered and scrambled into the seat. They drove to the ice cream place on Maple Street, a family-owned shop that had been there since Adrian was a kid. Emma got mint chocolate chip in a waffle cone. Adrian got black coffee because he was tired and slightly too old to enjoy ice cream in late autumn. They sat at one of the outdoor tables even though it was cold because Emma liked watching the cars go by. She swung her legs and attacked her ice cream with focus. "Dad? Yeah? Are you sad?" Adrian looked up sharply. "What? No.
Why would I be sad? You have your sad face. I don't have a sad face. You do. It's the one where your eyes look tired and you don't smile even when you're supposed to." Adrian set his coffee down. 8 years old, and she already saw through him like glass. "I'm not sad," he said. "Just tired. Work stuff." "Is work bad?" "No, work is fine." "Then why do you look like that?" "Like what?" "Like you're thinking about something that makes you feel heavy."
Adrian had no idea how to answer that. He settled for deflection. "How's your ice cream?" "Perfect. You're changing the subject." "I am absolutely changing the subject," Emma grinned, triumphant. "See? You do have a sad face. Eat your ice cream before it melts." She did, but she kept watching him with those sharp, knowing eyes that reminded him she was too smart for her own good. They spent the rest of the afternoon at the public library. Emma had discovered the dolphin book last week and had become obsessed. Now she wanted everything they had on marine biology. Adrian sat in one of the worn armchairs near the children's section and watched her pull books off the shelves with the seriousness of a scholar. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him swipe to accept. "Hello? Adrian Vale?" The voice was professional, clipped, female. "Speaking." "This is Catherine Moreno, HR Director at Titan Tech. I'm calling because your name came up in a routine security review." Adrian's blood went cold. "A security review?" "Standard procedure, nothing to be concerned about. However, I do need to ask, were you working in Executive Suite 4701 last night?" "Yeah, electrical issue. Lights were flickering." "And you were alone with Ms. Cross?" The way she said it made Adrian's stomach drop. "I was fixing the lights. She was working late. That's all." "I'm sure it was." Catherine's voice was perfectly pleasant and completely terrifying. "Just making sure everything's documented properly. We take executive security very seriously." "I fixed the lights and left. That's the whole story." "Of course. Thank you for your time, Mr. Vale." The line went dead. Adrian stared at his phone. His heart was pounding. They were checking up on him. Someone, probably building security, maybe Selena's assistant, maybe Selena herself, had flagged the late-night maintenance call, and now HR was sniffing around to make sure the working-class maintenance guy hadn't done something inappropriate. "Dad?" Emma was standing in front of him with an armload of books. "Can I check these out?" Adrian forced his face into something resembling normal. Yeah, of course." But his hands were shaking when he helped her carry them to the circulation desk. That night, after Emma was asleep and Mrs. Castellanos had gone home, Adrian sat at the kitchen table and stared at his phone. He should forget the whole thing, pretend Thursday night never happened, go to work, keep his head down, stay invisible. That was the smart play. But his mind kept circling back to the way Selena had looked at him, the way she'd asked why he didn't look at her, like it mattered, like she was tired of people not seeing her as anything more than a title and a bank account. He understood that. He understood it more than he wanted to. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "This is Selena. I got your number from the employee directory. I hope that's okay." Adrian stared at the screen. "I wanted to apologize." The next text read, "I put you in an uncomfortable position last night. That wasn't fair." His thumbs hovered over the keyboard. He should tell her it was fine. He should keep it professional and distant. Instead, he typed, "You didn't do anything wrong." The reply came fast. "I made you answer a question you didn't want to answer. You asked. I could have lied. Why didn't you?" Adrian closed his eyes. This was a bad idea. This was exactly the kind of bad idea that ended with him losing his job and Emma losing the stability she needed. "Because you looked like you needed to hear the truth," he typed, "even if it wasn't what you expected." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Can I ask you something else? Depends on the question. Do you really think there's that much difference between people like me and people like you? Adrian laughed, bitter and sharp in the quiet kitchen. He typed, "You made more this morning before breakfast than I'll make this year." So yeah, I think there's a difference. Money isn't the only thing that matters. It is when you don't have enough of it. The three dots pulsed for a long time. Fair point, Selena finally sent. But it's not the only thing that defines a person. Maybe not, but it defines what's possible. Does it? Adrian set the phone down and rubbed his face. He was so tired. Tired of being careful, tired of being practical, tired of living in a world where wanting something beautiful meant risking everything that mattered. His phone buzzed again. "I'm not trying to make your life harder," Selena wrote. I don't meet a lot of people who tell me the truth. And when I do, I don't want to let them disappear. I'm not disappearing. I'm just trying to keep my life from falling apart. Is talking to me going to make it fall apart? Adrian stared at that question for a long time. "I don't know," he typed honestly. "Maybe. Then I'll stop." "I didn't say stop." "What are you saying?" Adrian looked down the hallway toward Emma's room. The door was cracked open. He could hear her breathing, soft and even. "I'm saying I don't know what I'm doing," he typed. "I'm saying you scare me. I'm saying I have a daughter who depends on me not screwing up. And I'm saying that despite all of that, I can't stop thinking about you." He hit send before he could second-guess it. The three dots appeared immediately. "I can't stop thinking about you either," Selena sent, "and that terrifies me." "Why?" "Because I've spent 10 years building walls to keep people out, and you walked right through them without even trying." Adrian's chest felt tight. "What do we do about that?" he typed. The response took longer this time. "I don't know," Selena wrote, "but I don't think pretending it didn't happen is going to work. Probably not. So what do we do?" Adrian set the phone down and pressed the heels of his hands against his eyes. He was standing at the edge of something he didn't understand, something that felt like vertigo and possibility in equal measure. His phone buzzed one more time. "Coffee?" Selena had written. "Tomorrow. Somewhere away from the office. Just coffee. As people. Not as CEO and maintenance tech." Every rational part of Adrian's brain screamed that this was a mistake. He typed, "What time?" The coffee shop Selena chose was 20 miles outside the city, tucked into a neighborhood Adrian had never been to. The kind of place where the houses had actual yards, and the cars in the driveways were less than 5 years old. The shop itself was called Ember and Ground, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs, and the faint smell of something expensive being roasted in the back. Adrian felt out of place the moment he walked in. He was wearing the nicest thing he owned that wasn't his work uniform, a flannel shirt he'd ironed that morning and jeans without holes. His truck looked like a rust bucket parked between a Tesla and a BMW. He'd almost turned around 3 times on the drive over. Selena was already there, sitting at a corner table near the window. She wasn't wearing a power suit. Instead, she had on dark jeans and a cream sweater that made her look younger, softer. Her hair was down, no makeup that he could see, though he didn't know enough about makeup to be sure. She looked up when the door chimed and something in her expression shifted. Relief, maybe. Like she'd been worried he wouldn't show. Adrian walked over, throat tight. "Hi," he said. "Hi." Selena gestured to the chair across from her. "I didn't know what you liked, so I didn't order for you. Black coffee's fine." "That's it? They have a whole menu." "I'm not really a latte guy." A small smile touched her mouth. "Why doesn't that surprise me?" Adrian flagged down the barista and ordered a black coffee. Selena already had something in front of her, some kind of cappuccino with foam art on top. They sat in silence for a moment, the awkwardness settling between them like a third person at the table. "This is weird," Selena said finally. "Yeah, I don't normally do this." "What, coffee?" "Coffee with people I barely know. Coffee with employees, coffee with a..." She trailed off, searching for the word. "Maintenance guys?" Adrian offered. Selena's eyes flashed. "That's not what I was going to say." "But it's what you were thinking." "No, it's what you're thinking." She leaned forward slightly. "You keep putting yourself in a box, Adrian, like you're not allowed to be more than your job title." That's not a box. That's just reality. Is it? Selena wrapped her hands around her cup. Because from where I'm sitting, you're a single father who's raising a kid on his own while working full-time. You're smart enough to diagnose electrical problems in under 5 minutes. And you're honest enough to tell a CEO to her face that you're attracted to her, even though it could cost you your job. That's not just a maintenance guy. That's someone worth knowing. Adrian's coffee arrived. He took a sip to buy himself time. It was good, better than the convenience store stuff he usually drank. You don't know anything about me, he said quietly. I know enough, and I want to know more. Why? Because you're real. Selena said it like it was the simplest thing in the world. Do you have any idea how rare that is in my life? I'm not some novelty, Selena. I'm not here to make you feel more grounded or give you some kind of working-class redemption arc. That's not what this is. Then what is it? She was quiet for a long moment, staring down at her cup. When she looked up, her eyes were serious. I'm 30 years old, she said. I've built a company worth billions. I have more money than I'll ever be able to spend. I've been on magazine covers and keynote stages and in boardrooms where I'm the youngest person by 20 years. And you know what? I'm lonely. I'm so goddamn lonely that some nights I sit in my office until midnight because going home to an empty penthouse feels worse than just staying at work. Adrian felt something crack open in his chest. Everyone wants something from me, Selena continued. Investors want returns. Employees want promotions. The board wants growth. Men want, well, you can guess what men want, and I've learned to handle all of it. I'm good at being what people need me to be. But then you show up, and you don't want anything. You don't even look at me. And when I finally make you look at me, you tell me the truth in a way that makes it clear you'd rather not have said it at all. She paused. That got my attention. I'm not trying to be mysterious, Adrian said. I'm trying to survive. I know. That's why I believe you. They sat with that for a minute. Outside, a couple walked by with a stroller, laughing about something Adrian couldn't hear. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that two people inside a coffee shop were trying to figure out if they were about to make the best or worst decision of their lives. I have a daughter, Adrian said. Emma, she's 8. And she's the only thing that matters to me. I know, you mentioned her. No, I don't think you understand. She's not just important. She's everything. Every choice I make, every risk I take or don't take, it all comes back to her. Her mother left when she was a baby. No warning, no explanation, just gone. Emma doesn't remember her, which I guess is a mercy, but it also means I'm all she has. I'm her whole world. He met Selena's eyes. So when I say I can't afford to screw this up, I mean it literally. If I lose my job, we lose our apartment. If we lose our apartment, Emma loses the only home she's ever known. If I start something with you and it falls apart, and the whole company finds out and I get fired because of it, that's not just my life that gets destroyed. It's hers. Selena was very still. I would never let that happen, she said. You can't promise that. Neither can I. That's the problem. So what are you saying? That we shouldn't even try? Adrian rubbed his face, exhausted. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm terrified. I'm saying that every instinct I have is screaming at me to walk away from this before it gets complicated. And I'm also saying that I drove 20 miles to have coffee with you because apparently I'm not as smart as I thought I was. A smile ghosted across Selena's face. For what it's worth, I'm terrified too. Of what? Of wanting something I can't control. Of letting someone in and having them leave. Of being wrong about you. She paused. Of being right about you and then losing you anyway. Adrian's phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. I don't have anything to offer you, he said. No fancy dinners, no expensive gifts, no weekends in Paris or whatever it is people like you do. People like me? You know what I mean. I really don't. Selena leaned back in her chair. You think I want expensive gifts? I can buy myself anything I want. You think I need fancy dinners? I eat alone in Michelin-star restaurants because it's expected, and I hate every minute of it. You think I care about Paris? She shook her head. I've been to Paris 6 times for work. I've never actually seen it, just hotel conference rooms and airport lounges. Then what do you want? I want someone to look at me like I'm not a balance sheet. I want someone to tell me the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. I want... She stopped, seemed to reconsider, then pushed forward anyway.
I want to feel like I matter to someone for reasons that have nothing to do with what I can do for them. The barista dropped something behind the counter, and they both jumped slightly. The moment broke and reformed into something different, less confrontational, more tentative. "Tell me about Emma," Selena said. Adrian blinked at the subject change. "What do you want to know?" "Anything, everything. What's she like?" So he told her. He told her about Emma's obsession with dolphins and how she'd memorized the names of 20 different species. He told her about the time Emma had tried to make him breakfast in bed for his birthday and had somehow managed to burn scrambled eggs so badly the smoke alarm went off. He told her about parent-teacher conferences where Emma's teacher said she was reading 3 grades above level but struggled with sitting still. He told her about the way Emma fell asleep clutching her bear and the way she laughed at her own jokes before she even got to the punchline. Selena listened to all of it, asked questions, smiled in the right places. And somewhere in the telling, Adrian realized he was talking about Emma the way he never got to talk about her. Not as a responsibility or a logistics problem, but as a whole person who amazed him daily. "She sounds incredible," Selena said when he finally ran out of words. "She is. She's better than I deserve." "I doubt that." "You don't know me well enough to doubt it." "Maybe not, but I'm a pretty good judge of character. Comes with the job." Selena finished her cappuccino. "Can I tell you something?" "Sure." "I grew up poor. Not middle class pretending to be poor. Actually poor. My mom cleaned houses and my dad drove a taxi until he died when I was 12. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in a part of town where you didn't walk alone after dark. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through community college, then transferred to state school, then somehow landed a tech job that turned into another job that turned into a startup that I ran into the ground before I figured out what I was doing." She paused. "I know what it's like to count every dollar. I know what it's like to be afraid of losing everything. That's not something you forget, no matter how much money you make later." Adrian stared at her. "The business magazines don't mention that part." "Of course not. Rich people like rags to riches stories as long as the rags part is vague and inspiring, not real and uncomfortable." Selena smiled, but there was an edge to it. "But it's true. So when you talk about protecting Emma's stability, I understand that in a way most people in my position wouldn't. I'm not trying to storm into your life and mess it up. I'm trying to figure out if there's a version of this where we both get to be happy without everything falling apart. And if there's not, then we'll find out together. Or we'll walk away before anyone gets hurt." She met his eyes. "But I think we owe it to ourselves to at least try to find out." Adrian's phone buzzed again. This time he pulled it out. 2 texts from Mrs. Castellanos. "Emma wants to know if you're coming to her soccer scrimmage at 3. I told her you're running errands, but would try to make it." He checked the time. 2:17. The scrimmage was at the park 15 minutes from his apartment. "I have to go," he said, standing. "My daughter has a thing." "Of course." Selena stood too. "Adrian?" "Yeah?" "Can I see you again?" He should say no. He should end this before it started. Go back to his life. Focus on Emma. Stay safe. "Yeah," he heard himself say. "Yeah, you can." The smile that broke across Selena's face was worth every ounce of fear currently eating him alive. They walked out together. In the parking lot, Selena stopped next to a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Adrian made in 3 years. "That's you?" he said, nodding at his truck. "That's me." She looked at the rusted wheel wells and the duct tape holding the side mirror on. "Does it run?" "Most of the time." "You should let me—" "No." Adrian cut her off gently but firmly. "I appreciate it, but no. I've got it handled." Selena nodded slowly. "Okay, but if it breaks down and you need a ride, I'll call a tow truck. You're stubborn. I'm careful. There's a difference." She smiled. "I'm starting to see that." Adrian climbed into his truck. It started on the second try, which felt like a small victory. Through the windshield, he could see Selena still standing by her car, watching him. He lifted a hand in a wave. She waved back. Then he pulled out of the parking lot and drove toward the park where his daughter was waiting, his head full of things he couldn't name, and his chest full of something that felt dangerously close to hope. The scrimmage was already underway when Adrian arrived. Emma's team, the Purple Dragons, a name the kids had chosen with great seriousness, was down 2-1.
Emma was playing midfield, her ponytail flying as she chased the ball with the kind of intensity she brought to everything. Adrian found a spot on the sidelines next to Mrs. Castellanos, who was sitting in a folding chair she'd brought from home. "You made it," she said without looking up from her knitting. "Barely. Thanks for covering. That child would forgive you for missing the second coming if you had a good reason, but she lights up when you show, so I'm glad you're here." They watched Emma steal the ball from an opponent and pass it cleanly to a teammate. The teammate immediately lost control, and the other team recovered. "How was your errand?" Mrs. Castellanos asked, in a tone that suggested she knew damn well it wasn't an errand. "Fine." Fine like fine, or fine like I don't want to talk about it? The second one. Mrs. Castellanos made a humming sound and kept knitting. "You're allowed to have a life, you know, outside of that child." "My life is that child." "Your life includes that child, not the same thing." She glanced at him over her reading glasses. "Emma's happy because you're happy. If you're walking around like a ghost because you've sacrificed everything that makes you feel human, she'll figure that out eventually. Kids always do." "I'm not a ghost." "You're close enough to one that I can see through you sometimes." Adrian didn't have an answer for that. On the field, Emma scored a goal and the Purple Dragons erupted in cheers. She turned immediately to the sidelines, searching for him. When she found him, her whole face lit up. Adrian's heart did something complicated in his chest. After the scrimmage, Purple Dragons won 4-3. Emma ran over, sweaty and triumphant. "Did you see my goal?" "I saw it. That was beautiful. Coach says I'm getting better at not bunching up with everyone else." "That's huge. You've been working on that." Emma grabbed her water bottle and drained half of it in one go. "Can we get pizza?" "It's not even 4 o'clock. Early pizza. The best kind." Adrian looked down at her dirt-smudged face and grass-stained knees and felt the familiar weight of love settle over him like a blanket. "Yeah, okay. Pizza." They went to Romano's, the cheap place with the checkered tablecloths and the jukebox that only played songs from the 80s. Emma always got pepperoni and always picked off half the pepperoni to eat separately. Adrian got a slice of plain and a beer he didn't finish. "Dad?" "Yeah, trouble?" "You seem different today." Adrian looked up sharply. "Different how?" "I don't know. Less tired, maybe?" "You smiled at Mrs. Castellanos before the game, and you never smile at Mrs. Castellanos before games." "I smile at Mrs. Castellanos." "Not like that. That was a real smile." "What's a fake smile?" "The one you do when you're trying to make me think you're okay, but you're actually thinking about bills or work or something boring." Adrian set down his pizza. "You're too smart for 8. I'm actually very normal for 8. You just think I'm not paying attention." Emma swung her legs under the table. "So what's different?" "Nothing's different. Dad." "Emma." She gave him a look that was far too knowing for someone who still believed in the tooth fairy. "Is it a girl?" Adrian choked on his beer. "It's a girl," Emma said, delighted. "Oh my gosh, Dad, you like someone." That's not... Where did you even get that idea?" "You have the same face Marcus had when he liked Zoe in our class. All weird and smiley and far away." "I do not have a face." "You absolutely have a face." Emma leaned forward, eyes sparkling. "What's her name? Is she nice? Does she like dolphins?" "There's no girl." "Liar." "Emma, it's okay if there's a girl, Dad. You're allowed to like people." "Mrs. Castellanos says you work too much and never date anyone, and that's why you look so old sometimes." "Mrs. Castellanos needs to mind her own business. She says that's impossible when your business is so loud." Emma grinned. "So? What's her name?" Adrian sighed. There was no winning this fight. "Selena." "Selena," Emma repeated, testing it out. "That's pretty. What does she do?" "She works in my building." "Doing what?" "Managing things." "That's boring. Is she boring?" "No, she's not boring." "Is she nice?" Adrian thought about Selena sitting across from him in the coffee shop, talking about loneliness and fear and wanting to feel like she mattered. "Yeah, I think she is." "Then why do you look scared?" "I'm not scared." Emma gave him that look again, the one that said she could see right through him. You're scared. You get wrinkly here when you're scared. She pointed at the space between his eyebrows. I'm not scared. I'm just cautious. What's the difference? Cautious is smart. Scared is just scared. But you like her? Adrian met his daughter's eyes. Yeah, I like her. Then you should tell her. It's more complicated than that. Why? Because adult stuff is always more complicated. Emma rolled her eyes with the exaggerated drama of someone who'd been 8 for exactly 4 months. That's a cop-out. A what? A cop-out. Mrs. Castellanos taught me that too. It's when you make excuses because you don't want to do something hard. I'm not making excuses. You are, though. You like her, she probably likes you, but you're scared it'll mess things up, so you're going to just be sad instead. Emma picked a pepperoni off her pizza. That's dumb. Watch your language. Dumb's not a bad word. It's not a nice word. It's an accurate word. She pointed her pepperoni at him. You tell me all the time that being scared is okay, but letting scared stop you from trying is not okay. Remember when I didn't want to try soccer because I thought I'd be bad at it? That's different. How? Adrian didn't have an answer. Emma ate her pepperoni triumphantly. You should ask Selena to dinner. Like a real dinner, not just pizza at Romano's. I'll think about it. That means no. It means I'll think about it. Dad. Emma. She sighed like he was the most exhausting person on the planet. Fine, but when you're old and alone and I have to take care of you, I'm going to say I told you so. You're 8. You're not taking care of me. Not yet. But someday I'll be big and you'll be old and then we'll see who's right. Adrian reached across the table and ruffled her hair. She squawked in protest but didn't pull away. Love you, Trouble. Love you too, even when you're being dumb about girls. That night, after Emma was asleep and the apartment was quiet, Adrian's phone buzzed with a text from Selena. Thank you for today. I know it was risky. He typed back, yeah, it was. Worth it? Adrian stared at that question for a long time. In the next room, Emma was breathing soft and steady, safe in the life he'd built for her. Outside, a car alarm went off and someone yelled at someone else to shut it off. Normal sounds, normal life. I don't know yet, he typed. Ask me again later. How much later? Give me a few days to panic properly. He could almost hear her laugh through the screen. Fair enough, she sent. But Adrian? Yeah? I meant what I said. I'm not trying to mess up your life. I just want to be part of it. That's the same thing. Is it? Adrian set the phone down without answering. He went to the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water he didn't drink, and stood at the sink staring out at the parking lot. The geraniums on Mrs. Castellanos' windowsill were dark shapes against the glass. Mr. Washington's apartment was lit up. He'd be playing his saxophone soon, the same 3 songs he always played. Everything was the same as it always was. Except it wasn't. Because now there was Selena, with her sad eyes and her sharp honesty and her dangerous offer to let him want something more than survival. His phone buzzed again. My schedule's insane this week. Board meetings and investor calls. But I'm free Friday night. Would you want to do something? Nothing fancy. Just us. Adrian typed, I'd need to find someone to watch Emma. Bring her. He stared at that text like it was written in a foreign language. You want me to bring my 8-year-old daughter on a date with you? Is that crazy? Completely. But, Adrian closed his eyes. This woman was going to ruin him. But I'll ask her if she wants to meet you. 3 dots. Then, really? Don't make me regret this. I won't. I promise I won't. Adrian set the phone down and pressed his hands flat against the counter. His heart was pounding. This was a terrible idea. This was the worst idea he'd had in years. But when Emma had asked him about Selena earlier, there'd been hope in her voice. Not suspicion, not worry. Hope. Like maybe the idea of her dad being happy with someone wasn't the worst thing that could happen. His phone buzzed one more time. Thank you for giving this a chance. I know what it costs you. Adrian typed back, You have no idea what it cost me. But yeah, we'll try. That's all I'm asking. He looked down the hallway toward Emma's room one more time. The door was still cracked open, light from the hallway spilling across her floor. She was still asleep, still safe, still the center of everything that mattered. "Don't screw this up," Adrian said quietly to himself. To Selena, to the universe in general. Then he turned off the lights and went to bed, knowing sleep wouldn't come easy, but hoping that maybe, just maybe, he'd made the right choice. For the first time in 8 years, Adrian Vale was letting himself want something more than just survival, and it scared him more than anything he'd ever done. Friday came too fast and not fast enough. Adrian spent the week in a strange state of controlled panic, fixing leaky faucets and replacing light fixtures while his brain ran continuous loops of everything that could go wrong. Emma, meanwhile, had become obsessed with the idea of meeting Selena, asking questions Adrian couldn't always answer. "What's her favorite color?" "I don't know." "Does she like animals?" "I didn't ask." "Well, what if she doesn't like me?" That question had stopped Adrian cold while he was making Emma's lunch on Wednesday morning. He'd set down the peanut butter and turned to look at his daughter, who was sitting at the kitchen table with her dolphin book open but not reading it. "Why would you think she wouldn't like you?" he'd asked. Emma had shrugged, eyes on the page. "Sometimes people don't like kids. Mrs. Patterson downstairs always looks mad when I'm in the hallway." "Mrs. Patterson looks mad at everyone. That's just her face." "But what if Selena's like that?" Adrian had sat down across from her. "Then she's not someone we need to worry about. But I don't think she is." "How do you know?" "I don't. Not for sure. But when I told her about you, she listened like it mattered. She didn't get that look people get sometimes when you talk about your kids and they're just waiting for you to stop." Emma had considered this seriously. "Okay, but if she's mean to you, I'm going to tell her off." "Please don't tell off the woman I'm trying to date. Only if she's not mean." Now it was Friday at 6 in the evening, and Adrian was standing in front of his closet trying to figure out what you wore when you were introducing your daughter to a billionaire CEO at a public aquarium. Selena had suggested the aquarium, neutral ground, she'd said, and Emma would probably enjoy it. Adrian had agreed because he had no better ideas, and because the thought of sitting across a dinner table trying to facilitate conversation between an 8-year-old and a woman he barely knew sounded like a special kind of torture. He settled on dark jeans and a button-down shirt he usually saved for parent-teacher conferences. Good enough? He checked his reflection, decided he looked tired but presentable, and went to find Emma. She was in her room, wearing her favorite purple dress and her light-up sneakers, sitting on her bed with her hands folded in her lap like she was waiting for a job interview. "You okay?" Adrian asked from the doorway. "I'm nervous." "Yeah, me too." "Really? Really?" Emma looked up at him with those two knowing eyes. "What if this is weird?" "It's definitely gonna be weird." "But good weird or bad weird?" "I don't know yet. That's what we're finding out." Adrian sat down next to her on the bed. "Listen, if at any point tonight you're uncomfortable or you want to leave, you tell me. We'll go. No questions, no being mad. This is just as much your call as it is mine." "What if I like her but you guys fight?" "We're not gonna fight." "How do you know?" "Because we're both trying really hard not to screw this up, which means we're probably going to be extra polite and boring." Emma cracked a smile. "That sounds terrible." "It probably will be, but we're doing it anyway." They got to the aquarium at 7. Selena was waiting by the entrance, and Adrian's first thought was that she looked nervous too. She was wearing jeans and a simple black sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. No designer, anything that he could see. She looked like a regular person trying to make a good impression. When she saw them approaching, something in her posture shifted. She stood a little straighter, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear that didn't need tucking. "Hi," she said. "Hi," Adrian replied. Then, because the silence was already threatening to swallow them, "This is Emma." Emma stuck out her hand with the formality of someone who'd been practicing. "Nice to meet you." Selena shook it, and Adrian caught the flash of surprise in her eyes. "Nice to meet you too, Emma. Your dad's told me a lot about you." "He told me about you too, but he doesn't know your favorite color or if you like animals." Adrian closed his eyes briefly. "Emma, it's okay," Selena said, and she was smiling. "My favorite color is dark green, and I like animals, but I don't have any because I work too much to take care of them properly." "That's responsible,"
Emma said, nodding like Selina had passed some kind of test. Dad says people who get pets they can't take care of are selfish. Your dad's right. Adrian cleared his throat. Should we go inside before this turns into a full interrogation? The aquarium was quiet for a Friday night. Most families had already come and gone. They wandered through the exhibits in a small cluster, Emma darting ahead to press her face against the glass, then running back to tell them facts about whatever she'd just seen. Did you know octopuses have 3 hearts? She said breathlessly, tugging on Adrian's sleeve. I didn't.
And they can change color to match their surroundings. And they're really smart, and some of them can fit through holes the size of a quarter, even though they're huge.
That's amazing. Emma turned to Selina. Do you like octopuses?
I don't know much about them, Selina admitted, but they sound impressive. They're the best. Well, second best. Dolphins are first, but octopuses are a close second. They moved to the next tank, something with jellyfish that glowed blue and purple in the dark water. Emma was immediately hypnotized. Adrian and Selina stood behind her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. She's wonderful, Selina said quietly. She's a lot. In the best way. Selina glanced at him. You're doing a good job. Most days I feel like I'm barely keeping it together. That's parenting, isn't it? Or so I'm told. What about you? Adrian asked. You ever think about kids? Selina was quiet for a moment, watching the jellyfish pulse and drift. I used to, when I was younger and hadn't figured out yet that building a company meant sacrificing everything else. Now, she shrugged. I don't know, the window's closing and I'm not sure I'd be any good at it anyway. You're doing okay so far. I've been here 20 minutes. And you haven't run away screaming. That's a good sign. Selina laughed softly. Low bar. You'd be surprised how many people don't clear it. Emma spun around suddenly. Can we see the shark tunnel? Sure, Adrian said. The shark tunnel was a long glass corridor that ran through the center of a massive tank. Sharks glided overhead, their bellies pale against the filtered light. Rays flapped past like underwater birds. Emma walked slowly, craning her neck to see everything. Adrian and Selina followed a few paces behind. Can I ask you something? Selina said. Yeah. Why'd you say yes to this? Really? I know what you said about giving it a chance, but you could have just as easily said no and saved yourself a lot of stress. Adrian watched Emma stop to stare up at a shark that was easily 12 feet long. Because she asked if you were nice, and I said yes. And then she said I should ask you to dinner, because being scared isn't a good enough reason not to try. And I realized she was right. Smart kid? Too smart. It's going to be a problem when she's a teenager. You'll handle it. How do you know? Because you're handling this, and this is harder than anything a teenager could throw at you. Adrian wasn't sure that was true, but he appreciated the vote of confidence. They made it through the rest of the aquarium without incident. Emma asked Selina approximately 800 questions, most of which Selina answered with surprising patience. By the time they emerged back into the cool night air, Adrian's shoulders had unknotted slightly, and Emma was holding Selina's hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. Can we get ice cream? Emma asked. Adrian checked his watch. Almost 9. It's late. Please? Just a small one. I'll go to bed right when we get home. Selina caught Adrian's eye. I know a place nearby if that's okay. It wasn't the same fancy place they'd met at last week. This was a small gelateria tucked into a strip mall, bright and loud and full of families. Emma got chocolate chip. Selina got pistachio. Adrian got nothing because he was too anxious to eat. They sat at one of the wobbly outdoor tables. Emma swung her legs and attacked her gelato with enthusiasm. So what do? Emma asked Selina between bites. Dad said you manage things, but that's boring. Emma, Adrian warned. It's okay, Selina said. She seemed amused. I run a technology company. We make software that helps other companies organize their data. Emma wrinkled her nose. That does sound boring. It is sometimes, but other times it's like solving a really big puzzle, figuring out how to make things work better. Dad fixes things too, but like actual things, toilets and lights and stuff. That's much more useful than what I do. He says everyone's work is important. Selina looked at Adrian. He sounds like a smart guy. He is.
Except about girls. Adrian nearly choked. Emma, Mrs. Castellanos says he doesn't date enough, and that's why he always looks so serious. Mrs. Castellanos has a lot of opinions, Adrian said through gritted teeth. Emma turned to Selena with complete sincerity. Do you think my dad looks serious? Selena's mouth twitched. Sometimes, but I think that's because he cares a lot about doing things right.
That's what I said. Emma looked triumphant. See, Dad? Selena gets it. After ice cream, Adrian drove Emma home while Selena followed in her car. They'd agreed earlier that Selena would say goodbye in the parking lot. No need to push things by having her come up to the apartment on the first meeting. But when they pulled into the lot, Emma was asleep in the back seat, head tilted against the window, Gelato's sticky hands folded in her lap. Selena parked next to them and got out, walking over to Adrian's window. She's out, Adrian said quietly. Selena peered into the back seat and smiled. She's perfect. Don't tell her that. She'll get a big head. I think you've got that covered. Selena straightened. Thank you for tonight. I know it was a risk. Yeah, it was. Adrian glanced at Emma's sleeping form. But she liked you. I could tell. How? She held your hand. She doesn't do that with people she doesn't trust. Something shifted in Selena's expression, softened, opened. That means a lot. It should. She's a good judge of character. They stood there in the parking lot, the space between them charged with all the things they weren't saying. Adrian wanted to kiss her, wanted it so badly his chest ached with it. But Emma was 10 feet away, and this was already complicated enough without adding that to the mix. I should get her inside, he said. Yeah, of course. Selena stepped back. Text me when you're free next week? I will. She walked back to her car, then turned at the last second. Adrian? Yeah? I really like your daughter, and I really like you, just so we're clear. Before he could respond, she got in her car and drove away. Adrian sat in the truck for a long moment, heart pounding, before carefully extracting Emma from the back seat and carrying her upstairs. The weekend passed in a blur of normalcy, laundry and grocery shopping and helping Emma with a school project about ocean conservation. But underneath it all, Adrian felt the steady hum of something changing. Selena texted him Sunday night asking how Emma was doing. He sent back a photo of Emma asleep on the couch, surrounded by poster board and markers. Selena replied with a heart emoji, and Adrian stared at it for an embarrassingly long time. Monday at work, things shifted. Adrian was in the basement checking the main water line when his supervisor Rick found him. Need to talk to you, Rick said, and his voice had that tight quality that meant nothing good was coming. Adrian set down his wrench. What's up? HR wants to see you. 4th floor, office 412. Now. What for? Didn't say. But Vale? Rick looked uncomfortable. Whatever it is, be careful. HR doesn't call people up for friendly chats. Adrian's stomach dropped. He cleaned his hands on a rag and took the elevator up, mind racing through possibilities. Had he screwed something up? Missed a work order? Said something wrong to someone? Office 412 was at the end of a beige hallway that smelled like new carpet and anxiety. Adrian knocked once. Come in. Catherine Moreno was sitting behind a desk that looked too big for the room. She was mid-40s, sharp-eyed, with the kind of smile that didn't reach past her teeth. Mr. Vale, sit down, please. Adrian sat. Catherine folded her hands on the desk. I'll get straight to it. It's come to our attention that you've been seen outside of work with Ms. Cross. The floor tilted. I'm sorry? Last Friday, the aquarium downtown, you, Ms. Cross, and a young girl I assume was your daughter. Catherine's smile didn't waver. Now, I want to be clear. What employees do on their own time is their business. However, given the significant power differential between your position and Ms. Cross's, we need to make sure there's no inappropriate conduct occurring. Adrian's hands clenched on the armrests. There's nothing inappropriate happening. I'm sure you believe that. But from a liability standpoint, we need to document these things. Ms. Cross is a senior executive. You're a maintenance worker. If this relationship were to sour, there could be allegations of coercion, favoritism, hostile work environment. She asked me to coffee. I said yes, that's all. And the aquarium visit? We're getting to know each other, as people, off the clock. Catherine made a note on the pad in front of her. Has Ms. Cross offered you anything? Promotions, raises, special treatment of any kind? No. Has she made any promises contingent on continuing the relationship? No. Has there been any physical contact of a sexual nature? Jesus Christ, no. We had coffee. We went to an aquarium with my daughter. That's it. Mr. Vale, I understand this feels invasive, but we have a responsibility to protect all employees, including you. If Ms. Cross is leveraging her position, she's not leveraging anything. Adrian stood up. Are we done? Sit down, Mr. Vale. Am I being accused of something? You're being asked questions. There's a difference. Adrian remained standing. Then ask them. But stop implying that Selena is some kind of predator. She's not. We're two adults who happen to like each other. That's all. Catherine set down her pen. The optics are bad, Mr. Vale. Surely you can see that. A billionaire CEO and a maintenance worker. People talk. They're already talking. Let them talk. It could affect your employment. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Adrian felt something cold settle in his gut. Are you threatening to fire me? I'm advising you that continuing this relationship could create complications. For both of you, but especially for you. Catherine's expression didn't change. Ms. Cross can weather a scandal. She has resources, lawyers, public relations teams. What do you have? My daughter. Exactly. Which is why you should think very carefully about whether this is worth risking your livelihood over. Adrian stared at her. Understanding clicked into place like a lock turning. Did the board put you up to this? He asked quietly. Catherine didn't answer, which was answer enough. They want me gone. They want the situation handled discreetly, which means they want me to walk away. I'm simply advising you of the potential consequences of your choices. Adrian felt anger rising in his chest, hot and tight. Selena doesn't know about this meeting, does she? Ms. Cross is a busy woman with many responsibilities. She doesn't need to be involved in every personnel matter. This isn't a personnel matter. This is you trying to scare me off. Mr. Vale, we're done. Adrian turned toward the door. Think about your daughter, Catherine called after him. Think about what's best for her. Adrian stopped with his hand on the doorknob. Without turning around, he said, I think about my daughter every second of every day. That's the only reason I'm walking out of this office instead of saying what I really want to say. He left before she could respond. The rest of the day was a fog. Adrian went through the motions, replaced a broken thermostat on the third floor, fixed a jammed door in the legal department, cleaned out a clogged sink in the executive kitchen. His hands moved automatically while his brain replayed the conversation with Catherine on an endless loop. They were trying to get rid of him, not by firing him outright. That would look bad, create questions. But by making his life uncomfortable enough that he'd quit on his own. And if he didn't quit, they'd find a reason. Some small mistake, some policy violation, something they could point to and say, see? This is why we had to let him go. Nothing to do with Ms. Cross, just poor performance. Adrian had seen it happen before. Miguel in custodial let go after 15 years because he'd supposedly missed too many shifts. Never mind that he'd been covering for other people's emergencies. Sandra in the mailroom terminated for insubordination after she'd complained about harassment from a manager. The company protected its own, and Adrian wasn't one of their own. He texted Selena at lunch. We need to talk. Her response came immediately. What's wrong? Not over text. Can you meet me after work? Where? Anywhere that's not your office or my apartment. The park on 5th and Madison. 6:30? I'll be there. Adrian spent the rest of the afternoon trying not to think about what he was going to say. By the time 6:30 rolled around, he'd run through 100 different versions of the conversation and hated all of them. Selena was already at the park when he arrived, sitting on a bench near the playground. She stood when she saw him, and the worry on her face made something in Adrian's chest crack. What happened? She asked. Adrian sat down heavily. HR called me in today. Wanted to ask about us. Selena went very still. What did they say? They said people are talking. They said the optics are bad. They said I should think about whether this is worth risking my job over. He looked at her. They didn't say the board told them to do it, but they didn't have to. I'm not stupid. I didn't know, Selena said immediately. I swear to you, I didn't know they were going to do that. I know you didn't. I'll talk to them. I'll tell them to back off. That'll just make it worse. They'll say I'm using you for protection, that I'm manipulating the situation. Selena sat down beside him. This is my fault. I should have known this would happen. It's not your fault. It's just the way things are. Adrian rubbed his face. People like me don't get to date people like you without consequences. Don't say that. It's true. It's not. It's just people being afraid of change. Selena, Adrian turned to face her. They're going to fire me. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but they're going to find a reason. And when they do, I lose everything. The insurance, the steady paycheck, the stability Emma needs. I can't let that happen. So what are you saying? The question hung between them. Adrian had been asking himself the same thing all afternoon. I'm saying I don't know how to make this work, he said quietly. I want to. I want to so badly it's killing me. But I can't sacrifice Emma's security for a relationship that might not survive the pressure anyway. Selena's eyes were bright. You're giving up. I'm being realistic. You're being a coward. The word hit like a slap. Adrian stood up. I'm protecting my daughter. You're using your daughter as an excuse. Selena stood too, angry now. You're scared. I get it. I'm scared too. But hiding behind Emma doesn't make it noble. It just makes it sad. That's easy for you to say. You're not the one who's going to lose everything. You think I'm not losing anything? Selena's voice cracked. You think this is easy for me? I finally find someone who sees me as a person instead of a bank account, someone who's honest and kind and real, and now you're walking away because it's complicated. Well, guess what, Adrian? Everything worth having is complicated. I have a daughter to think about. So think about her. Think about what you're teaching her. That love isn't worth fighting for? That you should give up the moment things get hard? Is that really what you want her to learn? Adrian felt anger surge. Don't tell me how to raise my kid. I'm not. I'm telling you not to hide behind her when you're really just scared of getting hurt. You don't know anything about being scared. You've always had options, safety nets. If this falls apart, you'll be fine. Me? I'll be back to square one with a daughter to feed and no job. Then let me help. I don't want your help. I want to do this on my own. Why? What does that prove? That I'm not using you. The words came out louder than he intended. That I'm with you because I want to be, not because I need what you can give me. That's all anyone is ever going to see, Selena. The maintenance guy who landed the Billionaire, the guy who got lucky and rode the gravy train. I will never be anything else to them, and eventually you'll start seeing it too. That's not true. It is, and you know it. Selena stared at him, breathing hard. So that's it? You're just done? Adrian felt like his chest was caving in. I don't know. I just know I can't keep doing this and watch everything fall apart. Then what do you need? I need time. I need to figure out my next move. He trailed off, lost. You need me to wait while you decide if I'm worth the risk. Selena's voice had gone quiet, flat. That's what you're asking. I'm not asking you to wait. I'm asking you to understand. I understand perfectly. She picked up her bag. You're choosing fear over us. That's clear enough. Selena, I hope it's worth it, Adrian. I hope being safe and alone is everything you're hoping for. She walked away before he could respond. Adrian stood in the empty park as the streetlights flickered on, feeling like he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life, and the only rational choice available to him simultaneously. His phone buzzed, text from Mrs. Castellanos. Emma's asking when you'll be home. I told her soon. He typed back, on my way. But he sat on the bench for another 10 minutes, staring at nothing, before he could make himself move. When he got home, Emma was at the kitchen table doing homework. She looked up when he came in, and her smile faltered. You have your sad face again. I'm fine. You're lying. Adrian sat down across from her. Yeah, I'm lying. Emma set down her pencil. What happened? Grown-up stuff. Is it about Selena? Yeah. Did you guys fight? Sort of. Emma was quiet for a moment. Do you still like her? Yeah, I do. Does she still like you? I don't know, Em. Maybe not anymore. That's dumb. Watch your... It's dumb, Emma repeated firmly. You guys like each other. That should be enough. It's more complicated than that. Why does everyone always say that? Why does everything have to be complicated? Adrian didn't have an answer. Emma stood up and walked around the table. She climbed into his lap even though she was getting too big for it and wrapped her arms around his neck. I liked her, she said into his shoulder. She was nice, and she made you smile for real. Adrian held his daughter and felt his heart break in 17 different directions. I know, baby. So fix it. I don't know how. That's dumb too. Language. Sorry. She pulled back to look at him. But Dad, you're always telling me that things worth having are worth working for. Remember when I wanted to quit soccer because it was hard? This is different. How? And there it was again. That question he couldn't answer. How was it different? Because the stakes were higher? Because he was scared? Because admitting he wanted something this badly made him feel vulnerable in a way he hadn't felt since Emma's mother left? I'm scared, Em, he said quietly. Of what? Of screwing up, of losing my job, of things changing and not being able to protect you anymore. Emma cupped his face in her small hands with a seriousness that made her look far older than 8. Dad, you're the bravest person I know. You take care of me all by yourself and you never complain and you always make sure I'm okay even when you're tired. You can do hard things. I've seen you. This is different. Stop saying that. Her eyes were fierce. You like her. She likes you. That's not complicated. The other stuff is complicated, but that part's easy. So start with the easy part and figure out the rest. Adrian pulled her close again, overwhelmed. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't listen sometimes. He laughed despite everything. Noted. That night, after Emma was asleep, Adrian sat at the kitchen table with his phone in his hand. He typed and deleted 7 different messages to Selena before finally settling on, I'm sorry. You were right. I got scared and I said things I didn't mean. Can we talk? He stared at it for 5 minutes before hitting send. The response didn't come for 2 hours. Adrian had almost given up and gone to bed when his phone finally buzzed. I'm scared too, Selena wrote. But I'm willing to try if you are. I am. Then we need to do this right. No more hiding. No more pretending this isn't happening. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm going to fight for this. For us. But I can't do it alone. Adrian's hands were shaking when he typed, You're not alone. I'm in this. Whatever it takes. Even if it costs you your job? He thought about Emma's fierce little face, her hands on his cheeks, her absolute certainty that he could do hard things. Even then, he typed, Okay, we'll figure it out together. Together. Adrian set the phone down and pressed his hands against his eyes. He'd just committed to the scariest thing he'd done in 8 years, and he had no idea if it would work out or blow up in his face. But for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was moving toward something instead of just away from everything that could hurt him. It would have to be enough. The decision to fight for it changed nothing and everything at the same time. Adrian still went to work Tuesday morning, still fixed broken thermostats and flickering lights, still nodded at his coworkers in the hallways. But underneath the surface, everything felt different, like he was walking around with a live wire in his chest, waiting to see which way the current would flow. By Wednesday, the whispers had started. He first noticed it in the break room. 2 guys from facilities management were talking in low voices by the coffee machine. When Adrian walked in, they went silent. One of them, Marcus, who Adrian had worked with for 3 years, gave him a look that was part curiosity, part something uglier. Heard you're moving up in the world, Vale, Marcus said. Adrian grabbed a coffee cup from the stack. Don't know what you're talking about. Come on, everyone knows. You and the Ice Queen upstairs. Her name's Selena, and I'd appreciate you not calling her that. Marcus exchanged a glance with the other guy. Derek, newer hire, always trying too hard to fit in. Touchy. Must be serious. What I do on my own time is my business. Sure it is, but when your own time involves the CEO, it kind of becomes everyone's business. Marcus leaned against the counter. So what's the deal? She's slumming it for a thrill, or are you actually dating? Adrian set his cup down harder than necessary. You got something you want to say to me? Just making conversation. No, you're being an asshole. There's a difference. Derek laughed nervously. He's just messing around, man. I'm not laughing. Marcus held up his hands in mock surrender. Relax, I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Good for you, I guess. Landing a billionaire. Must be nice. Adrian walked out without getting coffee. The rest of the day wasn't much better. He caught people staring, heard his name in conversations that stopped when he got too close. By the time his shift ended, Adrian felt like his skin was too tight. He texted Selena. How's your day? Board meeting ran long, brutal. Yours? People are talking. I know, I'm hearing it too. What are they saying? Nothing I'm going to repeat. Ignore it. Easy for you to say. Her response took a minute. You're right. I'm sorry. Do you want to meet tonight? Can't. Emma has school tomorrow, and I promised her I'd help with her science project. Tomorrow then? Yeah. Tomorrow. At home, Emma was waiting with a shoebox full of construction paper and a determination to build a diorama of the ocean floor that would put everyone else's to shame. We need kelp, she announced as soon as Adrian walked through the door. Hello to you too. Hi, Dad. We need kelp for the diorama. Green paper doesn't look right. What does kelp look like? Like seaweed, but taller. And wavy. I looked it up. They spent 2 hours at the kitchen table cutting strips of green tissue paper and gluing them to the inside of the shoebox. Emma narrated facts about ocean ecosystems while Adrian tried to make kelp look wavy and mostly failed. Dad? Yeah? Are you and Selena okay? Adrian's hand stilled on the tissue paper. Why do you ask? You seem stressed, more than normal stressed. Work stuff. Is it because of Selena? There was no point lying. Emma had radar for that kind of thing. Some people at work aren't happy about me dating her. Why not? Because she's my boss and they think it's weird. Is it weird? A little, yeah. Emma considered this while carefully gluing a paper fish to the ocean floor. Mrs. Castellanos says people are always going to have opinions, and you can't live your life trying to make everyone happy. Mrs. Castellanos is full of wisdom. She really is. So, are you going to stop seeing Selena because people think it's weird? No. Good. Because that would be dumb, and you're not dumb. Adrian smiled despite everything. Thanks for the vote of confidence. You're welcome. Now make the kelp wavier. It looks too stiff. Thursday morning, Adrian got called into Rick's office before his shift even started. Rick looked worse than usual, more tired, more gray. He gestured for Adrian to close the door and sit down. I'm going to be straight with you, Rick said. Upper management's breathing down my neck about you. What do they want? They want me to document everything. Every call you respond to, every job you complete, every minute you're on the clock. They're looking for a reason, Vale. A reason to fire me. Yeah. Rick rubbed his face. Look, I've worked with you for 6 years. You're solid. You show up. You do the work. You don't cause problems. I don't give a damn who you're dating. But they do. And they're going to find something if they look hard enough. So what am I supposed to do? Be perfect. Don't be late. Don't miss anything. Don't give them an opening. Rick paused. Or quit before they make you. I'm not quitting. I figured you'd say that. Just be careful. Rick pulled out a folder. I've got you on routine maintenance today. Lower floors, nothing complicated. Keep your head down. Adrian took the assignment sheet. Thanks for the heads up. Don't thank me. I'm just trying to keep my own ass out of the fire. But Rick's expression said otherwise. For what it's worth, I think what they're doing is garbage. But I'm 3 years from retirement, and I can't afford to make waves. I understand. Adrian made it through Thursday and Friday without incident. Every job was completed ahead of schedule. Every form filled out perfectly. Every interaction documented. He felt like he was walking a tightrope, and the net below was made of knives. Friday night, he met Selena at a different coffee shop. This one even farther from the city, buried in a suburb where nobody would recognize either of them. She was already there when he arrived, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses even though it was almost dark. Disguise? Adrian said, sliding into the seat across from her. I'm being careful. There are already photos of us online. What? Selena pulled out her phone and showed him. Someone had snapped a picture of them at the aquarium. Adrian, Selena, and Emma all visible. Emma holding Selena's hand. The caption read, Titan Tech CEO Selena Cross spotted with mystery man and child. New relationship? The comments were exactly what Adrian expected. Half of them speculated about who he was. The other half made assumptions about why a billionaire would be seen with someone who looked like him. That's just the first one, Selena said quietly. There are others. Someone found your name. Found out where you work. Adrian felt sick. Emma's in that photo. I know. I'm sorry. No one gets to put my daughter online without my permission. I've already contacted the sites. They're taking them down. But Adrian, once something's out there, I know. He shoved the phone back across the table. I know. They sat in silence for a moment. The coffee shop was nearly empty, just an older woman in the corner reading a book and a teenager on a laptop with headphones in. My board met yesterday, Selena said finally. What did they say? They strongly suggested I end the relationship, said it's a distraction, said it's unprofessional, said it's creating a hostile work environment. Her jaw tightened. They didn't quite threaten my position, but they danced around it. Maybe you should listen to them. Selena's head snapped up. What? Maybe this isn't worth it for either of us. Are you serious right now? Selena, look at what's happening. We're hiding in coffee shops an hour from home. People are taking pictures of my daughter without permission. Your board is threatening you. My supervisors are building a case to fire me. At what point do we admit this isn't working? At the point where we actually try. Selena leaned forward. We've been dating for 2 weeks, Adrian. 2 weeks. And you're already ready to give up? I'm being realistic. You're being scared. Again. Her eyes flashed. Every time things get hard, you start looking for the exit. I'm starting to think Emma's not the only reason you keep pulling back. What's that supposed to mean? It means maybe you're scared of more than just losing your job. Maybe you're scared of actually having something good and watching it fall apart like everything else in your life has. The words hit like a fist to the gut. That's not fair, Adrian said quietly. Isn't it? Your daughter's mother left you. You've spent 8 years building walls so high nobody can get over them. And now someone's trying, and you're doing everything you can to push them away before they get the chance to leave first. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Selena's voice was sharp. You keep saying you're protecting Emma, but I think you're protecting yourself, and you're using her as the excuse. Adrian stood up. I'm done with this conversation. Of course you are. Running away. That's what you do. I don't run away. I'm trying to keep my life from falling apart. Your life is already falling apart, Adrian. You're miserable at a job that doesn't appreciate you. You're living paycheck to paycheck with no safety net. You're so focused on just surviving that you've forgotten what it's like to actually live. Selena stood too. I'm offering you a chance at something real, something good, and you're too scared to take it. Because taking it means risking everything I have. You don't have anything. Not really. You have a job that could fire you tomorrow, an apartment you can barely afford, a life that's one emergency away from collapse, and you're so afraid of losing those things that you won't reach for anything better. Adrian felt his hands shaking. You have no idea what it's like. You've always had options, always had money to fall back on. I don't get second chances. If I screw this up, Emma pays the price. Then let me help you. I don't want your money. I'm not offering money. I'm offering partnership, support, a chance to build something together instead of you fighting alone. Selena's voice cracked. But you have to let me in. You have to stop treating me like I'm the enemy. You're not the enemy. The situation is. Then fight the situation with me instead of fighting me. They stared at each other across the small table, both breathing hard, both too stubborn to look away first. Adrian's phone buzzed. Text from Mrs. Castellanos. Emma's asking about Selena again. Says you should invite her over for dinner Sunday. I told her I'd ask you. He showed Selena the text. Something in her expression softened. What did you tell Emma? About us? That we're figuring it out. Are we? Adrian sat back down slowly. I don't know. I want to be. But every time I think we're making progress, something else blows up. That's life. Things blow up. The question is whether we're going to deal with it together or separately. I'm not used to together. I know. Neither am I. Selena sat down across from him again. But I'm willing to learn if you are. Adrian looked at her, really looked at her. She was scared too. He could see it in the set of her shoulders, the way her hands were clenched on the table. This wasn't easy for her either. She was just better at pretending it was. Sunday dinner, he said finally, with Emma. If you're serious about this, then you need to be part of her life too, not just the fun stuff, the real stuff. I want that. It's mac and cheese and homework help and listening to her talk about dolphins for an hour straight. I'm aware. And if this doesn't work out, if we can't figure this out, she's going to get hurt. I need you to understand that. Selena reached across the table and took his hand. Her fingers were cold. I understand, and I'm not going to let that happen. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll try, that I'll show up, that I won't run when things get complicated. She squeezed his hand. Can you promise the same? Adrian thought about all the times he'd been ready to walk away. All the times fear had driven his decisions. All the years he'd spent building walls instead of bridges. Yeah, he said, I can promise that. Sunday dinner was chaos in the best possible way. Emma had insisted on helping cook, which meant there was pasta water on the floor and cheese grated all over the counter. Selena showed up at 6 with flowers for the table and a bottle of wine Adrian was pretty sure cost more than his monthly grocery budget. You didn't have to bring anything, he said. I wanted to. Selena looked around the small apartment, taking in the worn furniture and the crayon drawings on the fridge and the stack of library books on the coffee table. This is nice. It's small. It's lived in. That's better. Emma appeared from her room in her purple dress again, hair freshly brushed. Selena, we're making mac and cheese, the fancy kind with 3 cheeses. That sounds amazing. Dad usually just makes the box kind, but I told him we had to do better because you're coming over. Adrian shot Emma a look. Thanks for that. You're welcome. They cooked together, or tried to. Selena admitted she had no idea how to make mac and cheese from scratch. She'd grown up eating it from a box, too, when they could afford it. Emma appointed herself head chef and gave instructions while Adrian and Selena followed orders. More milk, Dad, it's too thick. I added milk. Not enough. Selena, can you stir while I add the cheese? On it. They sat down to eat at 7. The mac and cheese was lumpy and oversalted, but nobody cared. Emma talked nonstop about her ocean diorama, which had won 2nd place in the science fair. Selena asked questions and seemed genuinely interested in the answers. Adrian watched them interact and felt something in his chest unknot slightly. After dinner, Emma pulled out a board game, some complicated thing involving ocean animals and collecting fish cards. They played for an hour, Emma winning by a landslide because she'd memorized all the rules and bent them in her favor when nobody was looking. At 9, Adrian sent Emma to get ready for bed. She hugged Selena goodnight without prompting, then ran off to brush her teeth. Adrian and Selena cleaned up the kitchen in comfortable silence. When the last dish was put away, Selena turned to him. She's really something. Yeah, she is. You've done an incredible job with her. I've done my best. Most days that doesn't feel like enough. It's more than enough. She's happy. She's smart. She knows she's loved. That's everything. Adrian dried his hands on a dish towel. You're good with her. I'm trying. I don't really know what I'm doing. Neither do I most of the time, Selena smiled. That's weirdly comforting. They moved to the couch. Adrian turned on the TV but muted it, letting it play in the background. They sat close enough that their shoulders touched. I've been thinking, Selena said. About? About what you said. About not wanting my money, not wanting me to solve your problems. She turned to face him. I respect that, I do. But I need you to understand something. If we're going to do this, really do this, then we're a team. That means when you're struggling, I'm struggling. When you have a problem, it's our problem. Selena, let me finish. I'm not trying to buy you or fix you or make you dependent on me, but I also can't sit back and watch you drown when I have resources that could help. That's not partnership. That's just me being selfish. How is that selfish? Because it makes me feel better about myself while you suffer. She took his hand. So here's what I'm proposing. If they fire you, we deal with it together. I have connections. I can make calls, open doors. Not because I'm trying to rescue you, but because that's what people who care about each other do. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. Adrian looked down at their joined hands. What if people think I'm using you? Let them think what they want. We'll know the truth. It's not that simple. It is, though. People are always going to have opinions. We can either live our lives trying to manage those opinions, or we can focus on what actually matters. She squeezed his hand. Emma told me something while we were cooking. What? She said you're the bravest person she knows, that you're always scared but you do hard things anyway. Selena's eyes were bright. I think she's right, and I think dating me counts as a hard thing. Adrian laughed despite himself. You're definitely a hard thing. So do it scared. We'll both do it scared. But let's do it together. He kissed her. It was the first time, and it felt like jumping off a cliff and growing wings simultaneously. She tasted like wine and hope, and everything he'd been too afraid to reach for. When they pulled apart, Selena was smiling. Took you long enough, she said. I'm a slow learner. Good thing I'm patient. They sat together on the couch until almost midnight, talking about nothing and everything. Selena told him about growing up poor, about her mother who cleaned houses until her hands cracked and bled, about her father who'd worked himself to death trying to provide, about the scholarship that had saved her life and the first tech job where she'd been the only woman on a team of 15 men. Adrian told her about Emma's mother, about coming home to find her gone, about the months of barely holding it together, about the day he'd realized he was going to be okay because he had to be. They didn't solve anything, but they understood each other better, and for now, that felt like enough. Monday morning, everything came to a head. Adrian was on the 32nd floor replacing ceiling tiles when his radio crackled. Vale, report to HR immediately. His stomach dropped. On my way. He took the elevator down, mind racing through everything he might have done wrong. Had he missed something? Screwed up a job? Been late to a call? Catherine Moreno was waiting in the same office as before. But this time she wasn't alone. There was a man in a suit Adrian didn't recognize, holding a folder that looked ominously thick. Sit down, Mr. Vale. Adrian sat. This is David Chen from our legal department, Catherine said. We need to discuss some concerns about your conduct. What concerns? David opened the folder. Over the past 3 weeks, you've been involved in a personal relationship with Ms. Selena Cross, our CEO. Is that correct? Yes. And are you aware that company policy prohibits relationships between employees where there's a significant power differential? I'm aware. Then you understand you've violated that policy. Adrian's hands clenched on the armrests. We're not working together. The relationship is entirely outside of work. Ms. Cross is still your ultimate supervisor. The power differential exists regardless of whether the relationship occurs during work hours. David pulled out a document. Furthermore, we've received complaints from other employees that you've been receiving preferential treatment. What treatment? Your schedule has been modified 3 times in the past 2 weeks. You've been given easier assignments. You've had multiple personal calls during work hours that were not reported. My schedule was modified because I requested time to attend my daughter's school events. The easier assignments were given to me by my supervisor without my asking, and the personal calls lasted less than 5 minutes and were during my breaks. Nevertheless, the perception of favoritism exists, and in a workplace environment, perception matters as much as reality. Adrian felt cold settling into his bones. This was it. This was how they were going to do it. So what are you saying? Catherine folded her hands on the desk. We're offering you a choice. You can resign voluntarily with a severance package and a neutral reference, or we can proceed with termination for policy violation, which will go on your employment record. You're firing me for dating someone. We're addressing a policy violation, David corrected. The relationship itself isn't the issue. The violation of workplace policy is. And if I refuse both options? Then we move forward with the termination. It will be documented. Future employers will see it, and we will not provide a reference of any kind. Adrian stared at them. This was a setup. They'd engineered this from the beginning, documented everything, built a case that looked legitimate on paper, even though everyone in this room knew what was really happening. How much time do I have to decide? End of business today. That's 4 hours. We felt it was more than fair. Adrian stood up. I need to make a phone call. Of course. We'll be here when you're ready. He walked out into the hallway, pulled out his phone, and called Selena. She answered on the first ring. Adrian? They're firing me. Well, offering me the choice to resign or be fired. Same difference. I'm coming down. Don't. That'll just make it worse. Adrian leaned against the wall. They've built a whole case. Policy violations, perception of favoritism. It's all garbage, but it looks legitimate enough. I'll talk to them. I'll make them back off. You can't. They've already made up their minds. Selina was quiet for a long moment. What are you going to do? Adrian closed his eyes. He thought about Emma, about the apartment they'd lose without his paycheck, about starting over at 32 with no safety net. He thought about Selina and the way she'd looked at him last night, about Emma hugging her goodnight, about the future they'd started building together. I'm going to resign, he said. Take the severance, get the reference, find another job. We'll figure out the rest. Adrian, this isn't me giving up on us. This is me being smart about how we fight back. If I let them fire me, it'll be harder to find work. If I resign, at least I have options. I hate this. Me too, but it is what it is. He pushed off the wall. I have until 5 to decide. Can you meet me after? Might need a drink. I'll be there. Adrian? Yeah? I meant what I said. We're in this together. I know. That's the only reason I'm not completely losing it right now. He hung up and went back to Catherine's office. David was still there, waiting. I'll resign, Adrian said, but I want the severance in writing, and I want it clear that this resignation is voluntary and not the result of any misconduct. Of course, Catherine said, and she almost looked relieved. We'll have the paperwork ready by end of day. Adrian nodded and walked out. He had 4 hours left as an employee of Titan Tech. 4 hours before everything changed again. He spent them doing his job, fixing things, being useful, saying nothing. At 5 o'clock, he signed the papers, turned in his keys and his radio and his ID badge, walked out of the building for the last time as an employee. Selina was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against her car. You okay? She asked. Not even a little bit. What do you need? I need to tell my daughter I lost my job. I need to figure out how to pay rent next month. I need to not fall apart. He looked at Selina. And I need you to know that this doesn't change anything between us. I'm not walking away. Good, because neither am I. She took his hand and they stood there in the parking lot as the sun set. Two people who just lost a battle but refused to give up the war. What now? Adrian asked. Selina smiled, fierce and determined. Now we fight back. Fighting back turned out to be harder than either of them anticipated. Adrian spent the first week after his resignation sending out resumes and filling out applications. His severance would cover 2 months of rent and basic expenses if he stretched it. But after that, he'd be operating on fumes. Every job posting wanted references. Every interview asked why he'd left his last position. And every time he gave the carefully worded answer he and Selina had practiced. Seeking new opportunities, mutual decision, no hard feelings. He could see the doubt in their eyes. By the end of week 2, he'd had 5 interviews and 0 offers. They're calling Titan Tech, he told Selina over coffee on a Tuesday afternoon. Emma was at school, and they'd started meeting during the day when Adrian wasn't job hunting. I can tell. The interviews go fine until they check my references, then suddenly they're not interested anymore. They're blacklisting you. Can't prove it. The reference is neutral on paper, but somehow every company I interview with decides to go another direction right after they make the call. Selina's jaw tightened. That's illegal. Probably, but good luck proving it, and even if I could, I can't afford a lawyer to fight them. I can. No. Adrian set his cup down. We've talked about this. I'm not using your money to fight my battles. It's not just your battle anymore. They pushed you out because of me. They pushed me out because I was convenient to get rid of. I was a maintenance guy dating the CEO. That's threatening to people who need the world to stay in neat little boxes. He ran a hand through his hair. If we make this a legal fight, it becomes about us again. About the relationship. About you using your power to protect me. That's exactly the narrative they want. So what do we do? I keep looking. Something will break eventually. But another week passed, then another, and nothing broke. Adrian's savings dwindled. He started skipping meals to make sure Emma had enough. Mrs. Castellanos noticed and started bringing over even more food than usual, refusing his protests. You helped me when my Miguel died, she said firmly, referring to her late husband. You fixed my sink and my door and you never asked for money. Let me help you now. Adrian accepted the food because pride was a luxury he couldn't afford anymore. Emma noticed things were different. She didn't ask directly. She was too smart for that. But she started being extra helpful around the apartment, volunteering to turn off lights and taking shorter showers without being asked. It broke Adrian's heart in ways he couldn't articulate. One night in early December, Selena came over for dinner. They'd been doing this twice a week now, her showing up with ingredients, the three of them cooking together, pretending for a few hours that everything was normal. Emma had started setting a place for Selena automatically, no longer asking if she was coming, just assuming. After Emma went to bed, Adrian and Selena sat at the kitchen table nursing beers neither of them really wanted. "I got another rejection today," Adrian said. "Place in Riverside, facilities manager position. Would have been perfect." "I'm sorry." "Yeah, me too." He picked at the label on his bottle. "Severance runs out in 3 weeks. After that, I'm going to have to make some decisions." "What kind of decisions?" "The kind where I figure out how to keep Emma housed and fed. Might have to move somewhere cheaper. Might have to take work that's not in my field. Might have to—" He stopped, couldn't finish the sentence. Selena reached across the table and took his hand. "You could move in with me." Adrian looked up sharply. "What?" "Move in with me. You and Emma. I have a 4-bedroom penthouse that I'm barely using. Emma could have her own room, her own bathroom. You wouldn't have to worry about rent. You could take your time finding the right job instead of just any job." "Selena, before you say no, just listen. This isn't charity. This isn't me trying to rescue you. This is me being practical."
I care about you. I care about Emma. I have resources that are going to waste while you're struggling. It makes sense. It makes me look like exactly what everyone already thinks I am. A guy who landed a rich woman and moved in to mooch off her. Who cares what they think? I care. Emma will care when she's old enough to understand. And you'll care eventually, even if you don't think so now. Adrian pulled his hand back gently. "I appreciate the offer. I really do. But I can't." Selena's expression hardened. "You're being stubborn." "I'm being me." "You're being stupid. There's a difference." "Maybe. But it's my kind of stupid, and I'm sticking with it." They sat in tense silence for a moment. Then Selena sighed, long and tired. "What if I quit?" she said. "What?" "What if I resign from Titan Tech? Walk away from the whole thing. Then it's not about you dating your boss. It's just two people trying to build a life together." Adrian stared at her. "You can't quit. That company is your whole life." "No, it's not." "It was. But not anymore." She met his eyes. "You and Emma are my life now. Or they could be, if you'd let them be. Selena, you've spent 10 years building that company. You can't just walk away." "Why not? You did." "I got forced out. That's different." "Is it?" "You left because staying would have destroyed us. I'm leaving for the same reason." She leaned forward. "That board meeting a few weeks ago. They didn't just suggest I end things with you. They made it clear that if I didn't, they'd vote me out. I've been fighting them ever since, but I'm losing. They've already started looking for my replacement." Adrian felt something cold settle in his chest. "You didn't tell me. Because I knew you'd tell me to walk away from you instead of from them. And I'm not doing that. I'm not choosing a company full of people I barely tolerate over a man I—" She stopped, caught herself. "Over a man you what?" Selena looked down at her hands. "Over a man I love, and his daughter, who I've somehow fallen for just as hard." The words hung in the air between them like something solid. "You love me," Adrian said quietly. "Yeah, I do. Took me a while to figure it out, but yeah, I love you. I love the way you put Emma first in everything. I love the way you're honest even when it costs you. I love that you're stubborn and frustrating, and you won't take the easy way out even when it's killing you." She looked up at him. "And I need you to know that walking away from Titan Tech isn't giving up. It's choosing what actually matters." Adrian's throat felt tight. "What about your career, your reputation, everything you've built?" "I'll build something else. Something smaller, maybe. Something that lets me have a life outside of boardrooms and investor calls. I've been thinking about consulting, helping smaller companies get off the ground. I could do that from anywhere. Set my own hours. Actually have time for the people I care about." "You've really thought this through." "I've thought about nothing else for 2 weeks." Adrian stood up and walked to the window.
Outside, the parking lot was empty except for a few scattered cars. Mr. Washington's apartment was dark for once. Mrs. Castellanos's geraniums were silhouettes against her lit window. "If you do this," he said without turning around, "there's no going back. You can't change your mind in 6 months when you miss the power and the prestige and the fancy board meetings." "I won't miss it." "You don't know that." "I do, because I've already been living without those things whenever I'm with you and Emma, and those are the only times I'm actually happy." Adrian turned to face her. "I can't give you the life you're used to." "I don't want the life I'm used to. I want a life that means something." "What if we don't work out? What if this falls apart in a year and you've given up everything for nothing?" "Then at least I'll have tried." Selina stood and crossed to him. "Adrian, I'm scared too, terrified actually. But I'm more scared of spending the rest of my life wondering what could have been if I'd just been brave enough to choose it." He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. She smelled like expensive shampoo and coffee and home. "I love you too," he said into her shoulder. In case that wasn't clear, he felt her smile against his neck. It was becoming clear, but it's nice to hear. They stood there in the kitchen of Adrian's barely affordable apartment, holding each other like lifelines, and for the first time in weeks, Adrian felt like maybe they'd actually make it through this. Selina submitted her resignation the next day. The board tried to talk her out of it, offered her a 6-month sabbatical instead, dangled stock options and retention bonuses. She turned them all down. Her last day was set for the end of December, giving her time to transition her responsibilities and tie up loose ends. The news hit the tech press within hours. Selina Cross steps down from Titan Tech ran on every major business site. The speculation was immediate and relentless. Some outlets suggested she'd been forced out. Others claimed she was starting a competitor. A few mentioned the mystery man she'd been spotted with, but most dismissed it as irrelevant to the real story. Adrian watched it unfold from his apartment, feeling guilty and grateful in equal measure. "Stop doom scrolling," Selina said when she came over that evening. She'd brought Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine that definitely cost more than Adrian's weekly grocery budget. "It doesn't matter what they say." "Easy for you to say. They're not calling you a gold digger. Actually, some of them are saying I'm having a breakdown, that I've lost perspective, that I'm throwing away my career for some kind of midlife crisis." She started unpacking containers of food. "So we're both getting dragged. It's very democratic." Emma wandered in from her room, drawn by the smell of food. "Are you guys famous now?" "Not in a good way," Adrian said. "There's no such thing as bad publicity," Emma said, with the confidence of someone who'd definitely heard that somewhere and was now repeating it without full understanding. "Who told you that?" "Marcus at school. His mom works in marketing." "Marcus's mom is wrong." They ate dinner around the small kitchen table, Emma chattering about her day while Adrian and Selina exchanged glances that said everything they couldn't say in front of an 8-year-old. After Emma went to bed, they cleaned up together in comfortable silence. "I've been thinking," Selina said, drying the last plate, "about the consulting thing." "Yeah? I'm going to need office space, nothing fancy, but something professional where I can meet clients." "Makes sense. I was thinking maybe you could help me set it up. You know, facilities, equipment, making spaces functional. I could pay you as a consultant." Adrian stopped washing the pan he was holding. "Selina, before you say no, hear me out. This isn't charity. I genuinely need help, and you're the most qualified person I know. You've been managing building systems for 12 years. You know what works and what doesn't. That's exactly what I need. You're creating a job for me. I'm hiring someone I trust for a job that needs doing. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes, because if you do bad work, I'll fire you." She smiled. "I'm a very demanding boss." "I'm aware. So, will you help me? I'll pay you market rate. And once we're up and running, there'll be ongoing maintenance work, equipment to manage, systems to monitor. It could turn into a steady thing if you want it to." Adrian dried his hands slowly, thinking. It wasn't a handout. It was legitimate work using skills he actually had, and it would keep him afloat while he continued looking for something more permanent. "Market rate?" he said. "Market rate. And you'll actually fire me if I screw up?" "Absolutely. I'll be ruthless. Ask anyone who's ever worked for me." "What about us?" working together and dating. Isn't that what got us into trouble in the first place? That was different. There was a massive power differential and a huge corporation between us. This is my business, small, independent, we can set our own rules. She stepped closer. Unless you think we can't keep it professional. I think we're terrible at professional. Then we'll be terrible together. Adrian kissed her because she was frustrating and brilliant and offering him exactly what he needed in a way that didn't completely demolish his pride. Okay, he said when they broke apart. I'll help you set up your office, but I'm tracking my hours and you're paying me fairly. No discounts, no favors. Deal. They shook on it, formal and ridiculous, then ruined it by kissing again. The next few weeks were chaos. Selena finished her transition at Titan Tech, working insane hours to make sure everything was handed off properly. Adrian helped her find office space, a small suite in a building downtown that needed work but had good bones. They spent days painting walls and installing shelving and setting up equipment. Emma came along sometimes after school, appointed herself assistant decorator, and had strong opinions about where the plants should go. Not there, Dad. There's no natural light. Since when do you know about natural light? Since always. Plants need sun. That's basic science. They moved the plants. Christmas came during the middle of all of it. Adrian couldn't afford much. He got Emma a book about marine biology and a new pair of light-up sneakers she'd been wanting. Selena showed up on Christmas morning with a bike for Emma and looked genuinely surprised when Adrian gave her a framed photo of the three of them from the aquarium trip. I love it, she said, and her voice cracked slightly. It's just a photo. It's the three of us. It's perfect. Emma got them both matching dolphin ornaments for the small tree Adrian had picked up at the lot for $15. They hung them front and center. January arrived cold and gray. Selena's consulting business officially launched the first week of the new year. She had 3 clients lined up, smaller tech companies who needed strategic guidance but couldn't afford the big consulting firms. Adrian maintained the office, managed the equipment, handled all the practical details that kept things running. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. By February, Adrian had found another job, facilities manager at a hospital across town. The pay was better than Titan Tech, the hours were more flexible, and nobody cared who he was dating. He kept helping Selena part-time, coming in early mornings or late evenings to handle maintenance issues. Emma started calling Selena by her first name without prompting, started saving funny things that happened at school to tell her about, started including her in drawings she made of my family. Is this okay? Selena asked Adrian one night after Emma had gone to bed. She was holding one of the drawings, stick figures labeled Dad, Emma, and Selena, all holding hands under a smiling sun. Am I moving too fast with her? She's the one moving fast. You're just keeping up. But is it okay? I don't want to overstep. Selena, she draws you holding our hands under a happy sun. I think she's pretty clear about wanting you around. I want to be around. I just don't want to mess this up. You won't. How do you know? Because you care enough to worry about it. That's already more than most people manage. By March, they'd fallen into a rhythm. Adrian worked at the hospital during the day, helped Selena in the evenings. Emma did homework at Selena's office sometimes, spread out on the couch with her books, while Adrian fixed things and Selena took calls with clients. They had dinner together 4 or 5 nights a week, sometimes at Adrian's apartment, sometimes at Selena's penthouse, which Emma had deemed really big but kind of empty. You need more furniture, Emma had said, staring at the vast living room with its minimal decoration. I have furniture. You have like 3 chairs and a table. That's not furniture. That's just places to sit. What else do I need? Warmth, personality, stuff that makes it feel like someone actually lives here. So they went shopping, Adrian, Selena, and Emma, to furniture stores and home goods shops. Emma picked out throw pillows and blankets. Adrian found lamps that weren't just functional, but actually looked nice. Selena bought a bookshelf, and they filled it with books from each of their apartments, mixing fiction and business texts and Emma's dolphin collection into something that felt like it belonged to all of them. Better? Selena asked when they were done. Emma surveyed the room critically. Getting there, still needs a dog. I'm not getting a dog. Yet. Ever. We'll see. Adrian caught Selena's eye and they both smiled. Somewhere in the chaos of the past few months, this had stopped being his life and her life and become their life. Not perfectly merged, they still maintained separate apartments, separate spaces, but the boundaries were getting blurrier. In April, the board of Titan Tech announced they were restructuring. 3 board members resigned. The company issued a public statement about renewing their commitment to workplace culture and equity. It was corporate speak for admitting they'd screwed up without actually admitting anything. Adrian got a call from Rick, his old supervisor. "Thought you should know," Rick said. "HR is under investigation. Turns out they were blacklisting people left and right, not just you. Someone filed a complaint with the labor board and the whole thing came unraveled." "Catherine?" "Gone. David from Legal too. They're cleaning house." Rick paused. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry about what happened to you. I knew it was garbage, but I didn't speak up. That's on me. You were protecting your retirement. Still, should have said something." "Appreciate the call, Rick." "Yeah. Take care of yourself, Vale. And that girlfriend of yours. She did good getting out of this place." Adrian told Selena that night over dinner at her place. Emma was at a sleepover, so it was just the 2 of them, quiet and rare. "They're investigating HR," he said. "I heard. Called an old colleague who's still there. Apparently it's a mess. They're finding all kinds of violations." "Does it make you feel vindicated?" "A little. Mostly it just makes me glad I'm not there anymore." She reached across the table and took his hand. "I don't miss it. Any of it, just so you know." "Not even a little?" "Not even a little. Turns out running your own business where you set the rules is way better than fighting with a board every 5 minutes." She smiled. "Plus my commute got way shorter once I convinced my facilities manager that I could work from home sometimes." "Your facilities manager is very reasonable about flexible work arrangements." "He really is. I should probably give him a raise." "Probably." They cleaned up dinner together, moving around Selena's kitchen with the ease of people who'd done this 100 times. When the dishes were done, they settled on the couch. The new one Emma had picked out, cream-colored with throw pillows in about 17 different patterns. "I've been thinking," Selena said. "Dangerous." "I'm serious. I've been thinking about the future. About us." Adrian felt his chest tighten. "What about us?" "I want more of this. More nights where we don't have to say goodbye at the door. More mornings waking up together. More of just being together without having to plan it." She turned to face him. "I want you and Emma to move in here, for real. Not because you need to. Because we want to." "Selena, I know what you're going to say. That it's too soon, that people will talk, that you need to maintain your independence. And you're right about all of that. But I don't care. I'm tired of maintaining separate lives when what I really want is to build one life together." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. 6 months ago, this offer would have terrified him. Would have felt like giving up, like losing himself, like becoming dependent in a way he'd sworn he'd never be again. Now, it just felt like the next logical step. "What does Emma think?" he asked. "I haven't asked her. I wanted to talk to you first." "We should ask her. This affects her as much as it affects us." "Agreed. But what do you think? Is this something you even want?" Adrian looked around the penthouse, at the throw pillows Emma had picked, at the bookshelf that held pieces of all their lives, at the space they'd made warm together. He thought about going home to his small apartment every night, about the worn couch and the kitchen table where he'd raised Emma alone for 8 years. He thought about what Mrs. Castellanos had said months ago, that Emma was happy because he was happy, that a life of pure survival wasn't the same as actually living. "Yeah," he said, "I want it. But we do this right. Emma gets her own room, her own space. I keep working, keep contributing. We split expenses in a way that makes sense. This isn't me moving in to be taken care of. This is us building something together." "Deal. We'll work out the details. Together." Selena kissed him softly. "I love you, Adrian Vale. I love you too, even though you're stubborn and you make terrible coffee." My coffee is perfect. Your coffee could dissolve engine parts. That's how you know it's strong." They asked Emma the next weekend, sat her down at Selena's kitchen table, their kitchen table, maybe, and explained what they were thinking. Emma listened with that serious expression she got when processing something important.
When they finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Would I have to change schools? She asked finally. No, Adrian said. Same school. I'd just be driving you from here instead of from the apartment. And my room here would really be mine, not just a guest room? Really yours, Selena confirmed. You can decorate it however you want. Paint the walls, pick out furniture, whatever you want. Can I get a fish tank? Adrian and Selena exchanged glances. Maybe a small one, Adrian said. Emma thought about this. What about Mrs. Castellanos? Who's going to check on her? We'll still visit her. She's not going anywhere. And she'll probably be relieved not to have to watch you so much. She likes watching me. She does. But she's getting older. This will be easier on her. Emma nodded slowly. Then, with the directness of someone who'd spent 8 years learning to ask for what she needed. Are you guys getting married? Selena looked at Adrian. Adrian looked at Selena. Neither of them had discussed this. Eventually, probably, Adrian said carefully. But we wanted to take things one step at a time. Moving in together is the step we're taking now. Okay, but just so you know, if you do get married, I want to be involved in the planning. I have ideas about the cake. Noted, Selena said, fighting a smile. And I want Selena to be Selena, not like stepmom or something weird. Just Selena. I'm very happy being just Selena. Good. Then, okay, we can move. Emma paused. But I'm bringing my dolphin posters. All of them. All of them, Adrian confirmed. Even the really big one. Even the really big one. Emma grinned, and just like that, it was decided. They moved in during the first week of May. It took 3 trips in Adrian's truck and 1 rental van. Mrs. Castellanos cried and made them promise to visit every Sunday. Mr. Washington gave them a bottle of whiskey and told Adrian he'd done good for himself. The whole building came out to say goodbye to Emma, who'd apparently charmed everyone without Adrian fully realizing it. You take care of your dad, Mrs. Castellanos told Emma, holding her hands. And that beautiful woman who's smart enough to love him. I will. And you come back and visit your old neighbor. Every Sunday, Dad promised. Good boy. Mrs. Castellanos looked at Adrian. You're allowed to be happy, you know. You've earned it. I know. Do you? I'm starting to. She patted his cheek like he was still the exhausted 24-year-old who'd moved in 8 years ago with a baby and no idea what he was doing. Good. Now go, before I cry more and embarrass myself. Emma's new room was twice the size of her old one. They spent the weekend painting it the shade of blue she'd picked, something called ocean mist that looked different depending on the light. Adrian put up her dolphin posters while Selena assembled the new bed frame. Emma directed them both like a tiny general, very clear about what went where. By Sunday night, the room looked lived in. Books on the shelves, clothes in the closet, stuffed animals arranged just so on the bed. Emma stood in the doorway, surveying her kingdom. It's perfect, she declared. Yeah? Adrian said. Yeah, it feels like home. That night, after Emma was asleep in her new room, Adrian and Selena sat on their couch, because it was definitely their couch now, and just breathed. We did it, Selena said. We did. Are you okay? I'm terrified and relieved and happy and convinced this is the best decision I've ever made, all at the same time. Same. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, the city lights spread out like scattered stars. Inside, everything was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Emma's white noise machine. Thank you, Adrian said. For what? For being patient. For not giving up when I was being an idiot. For loving Emma as much as you love me. I don't love her as much as I love you, Selena said. Adrian looked at her sharply, and she smiled. I love her differently, but probably more intensely. She's extraordinary. She is. You raised her to be extraordinary. I raised her to survive. She made herself extraordinary all on her own. I think you're selling yourself short, but I'm not going to argue. Selena leaned her head on his shoulder. I never thought I'd have this. A family. People to come home to. Someone to build a life with. You could have had it any time. You just chose not to. Because it never felt right before. It always felt like I'd have to give up too much, compromise too much. But with you, it doesn't feel like compromise. It just feels like choosing what matters. Adrian kissed the top of her head. I spent 8 years convinced I didn't deserve anything beyond making sure Emma was okay.
That wanting more than that was selfish. And now? Now I think maybe teaching Emma that her dad deserves to be happy is just as important as keeping her safe. Maybe more important. She's lucky to have you. We're lucky to have each other. It was a simple truth, but it felt profound sitting there in the quiet of their home, the three of them under one roof, building something that hadn't existed 6 months ago. The next year unfolded in a series of small moments that added up to a life. Emma's 9th birthday party at the penthouse, where half her class came, and Selena hired someone to do face painting, and Adrian grilled hot dogs on the terrace. Selena's consulting business growing to the point where she had to hire an assistant, and Adrian helped interview candidates. The three of them taking a weekend trip to the coast, Emma finding shells and Selena helping her identify them, while Adrian took pictures on his phone that he'd never bothered to print but looked at constantly anyway. There were hard moments too. Emma having a meltdown about missing her old apartment and Mrs. Castellanos in her old room, even though she loved the new one. Adrian and Selena having a massive fight about money, her wanting to contribute more, him feeling like he needed to pull his weight. Both of them too stubborn to back down until Emma walked in and said, "You guys know you're on the same team, right?" Selena's mother visiting and being suspicious of Adrian until Emma won her over by asking detailed questions about her childhood and listening with genuine interest. But the hard moments were outnumbered by the good ones, and even the hard ones felt manageable because they were facing them together. On a Saturday in late April, almost exactly a year after they'd moved in together, Adrian woke up early. Selena was still asleep next to him, dark hair spread across her pillow. He could hear Emma in her room talking to her fish. She'd gotten the tank after all, had named each fish after a different species of dolphin, even though they were goldfish. Adrian got up quietly and went to the kitchen. Made coffee, better than he used to, Selena had been teaching him. Made pancakes from scratch because Emma had requested them the night before and he'd promised. He was flipping the third pancake when Selena appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a bathrobe, hair a mess, looking perfect. "You're up early," she said. "Couldn't sleep." "Why not?" "Too busy thinking." "About?" Adrian turned off the stove and turned to face her. "About how a year ago I thought my life was falling apart. I'd lost my job, lost my sense of purpose, had no idea how I was going to keep things together. And now I'm standing in a kitchen that's partly mine, making pancakes for my daughter and the woman I love. And I have a job I actually like, and a life that feels like more than just survival." He paused. "It's a lot to process." Selena crossed to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. "Good lot or bad lot?" "The best lot. I'm glad." Emma appeared then, drawn by the smell of pancakes. "Are those ready?" "Almost." "Good, because I'm starving. Can Selena and I go to the aquarium today? They have a new exhibit on bioluminescence." "Selena has to work today, remember?" "I can move things around," Selena said. "Bioluminescence sounds important." "It's very important," Emma confirmed. "Marcus says his cousin went and said it was incredible." "Then we should definitely go." "Can Dad come?" "If he wants to." They both looked at Adrian. He looked at his daughter, who was taller now, growing like a weed, still obsessed with marine biology, but developing interests in other things too. And at Selena, who'd walked away from a billion-dollar company to build a life that had room for Sunday aquarium trips and pancake breakfasts. "Yeah," he said, "I want to." They went to the aquarium that afternoon, the three of them. Emma ran ahead, excited to show them everything she'd read about bioluminescence. Adrian and Selena followed hand in hand, slower, content to let Emma's enthusiasm pull them along. In the darkened room where the bioluminescent creatures glowed blue and green and purple in their tanks, Emma pressed her face against the glass, transfixed. "It's beautiful," she breathed. Adrian looked at her, then at Selena, then back at the glowing creatures. "Yeah," he said, "it really is." That night, after Emma was asleep and they were back on their couch with glasses of wine neither of them really needed, Selena said, "I have something to ask you." "Should I be worried?" "Depends." She reached into the end table drawer and pulled out a small box. Adrian's heart stopped. "Before you panic," Selena said quickly, "this isn't what you think. Or maybe it is. I don't know. I'm terrible at this." "At what?" "At knowing how to do this right." because traditionally this is something the man does. But we're not exactly traditional, are we? Adrian stared at the box. Selina, I love you. I love Emma. I love the life we've built. And I want to make it official, not because we need to, but because I want to. Because I want to stand up in front of people and say that you're my family and I'm yours, and that's not going to change. She opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band. So, Adrian Vale, will you marry me? Adrian looked at the ring, then at Selina, this woman who'd walked away from everything safe and certain to choose him, to choose them, to choose a life that was messy and complicated and real. Yes, he said, and his voice cracked on the word. Yes, I'll marry you. Selina's smile could have lit up the whole city. She kissed him, and the ring box fell forgotten onto the couch cushion as they held each other, laughing and crying in equal measure. We should tell Emma, Selina said when they finally pulled apart. Now? It's almost midnight. She'll want to know. She'll be mad if we wait. So they went to Emma's room and gently woke her up. She blinked at them sleepily, confused. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, Adrian said. We just wanted to tell you something. Selina asked me to marry her. Emma was awake instantly. Really? Really? And you said yes? I said yes. Emma launched herself at both of them, wrapping them in a hug that knocked them slightly off balance. This is the best day ever. Better than the aquarium? Selina asked. Way better. Can I help plan the wedding? Absolutely. And I was serious about the cake. I have opinions. We're counting on it. They sat on Emma's bed for another hour, Emma asking questions and making plans and clearly having no intention of going back to sleep anytime soon. Finally, Adrian said they could talk more in the morning, and they all needed to get some rest. Fine, Emma said. But just so you know, this is the best family ever. Yeah? Adrian said, tucking her back in. Yeah, I got the best dad. And now I'm getting Selina forever. And we live in a cool place. And I have a fish tank. It's basically perfect. Adrian and Selina left her room and stood in the hallway, holding hands. It's basically perfect, Selina repeated softly. Yeah, it really is. They got married 6 months later in October, when the weather was cool and the leaves were turning. It was a small ceremony, just close friends and family. Mrs. Castellanos came and cried through the whole thing. Mr. Washington brought his saxophone and played during the reception. Emma stood next to them in a purple dress she'd picked out herself, holding both their hands during the vows. Adrian promised to love Selina through the chaos and the quiet, through the good days and the impossible ones. Selina promised to choose him every day, even when it was hard, even when the world didn't understand. Emma promised absolutely nothing because she wasn't part of the official ceremony. But she told everyone at the reception that she'd known they'd get married from the beginning because they looked at each other the right way. What's the right way? Someone asked her. Like they see each other, really see each other, not just the outside stuff, but the real stuff underneath. At 33 years old, Adrian Vale married the woman he loved in front of the daughter who'd saved his life just by existing. And for the first time since Emma's mother had walked out 8 years ago, he let himself believe that good things didn't have to be temporary. That sometimes people stayed. That sometimes love was enough. The reception went late into the evening. Adrian danced with Emma to some pop song she loved, then with Selina to something slow and old that neither of them knew the words to. When it was finally over and the guests had left and they'd driven home, all three of them because they'd refused to spend their wedding night apart, Emma fell asleep in the car. Adrian carried her up to her room, Selina following behind. They tucked her in together, this girl who'd become the center of both their worlds. Thank you, Adrian whispered to Emma's sleeping form, though she couldn't hear him, for giving me a reason to be brave. Back in their room, Adrian and Selina got ready for bed in comfortable silence. When they finally settled under the covers, Selina said, No regrets? Not even one. Good, because you're stuck with me now. I'm counting on it. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, two people who'd found their way to each other through fear and stubbornness, and the kind of love that only works when you're willing to fight for it. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, a family slept peacefully. A man who'd learned that being vulnerable wasn't the same as being weak. A woman who'd discovered that power meant nothing without someone to share it with. And a girl who'd taught them both that the bravest thing you could do was let people in. And in the morning, they'd wake up and do it all again. The ordinary magic of breakfast and conversation and being together. The daily choice to keep building a life that none of them could have imagined a year ago. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and that was more than enough.